died in police custody. 33-year-old Collins Jumaisi was on Monday arrested at a club in Kayole, Nairobi. As of Monday, 10 bodies had been retrieved from the disused quarry. In a televised address, acting IG Douglas Kanja said the post-mortem exercises had kicked off and urged members of the public who lost their loved ones to report to City Mortuary to identify their kin's bodies.
Early this morning, at around 1, we arrested the prime suspect named Collins Jumaisi Harucha. Yesterday we did recover one more body, bringing the total to 9 bodies recovered so far. The post-mortem examinations are happening today. We call upon any member of public with information that may aid the police in identifying the bodies or those who have cases of their missing persons to report to the DCI headquarters or the nearest police station.
On its part, DCI boss Mohammed Amin said Jumaisi confessed to killing 42 women, including his wife, whose body he also dumped at the disused quarry. Amin said Jumaisi was found in possession of a machete, several phones and assorted documents. And finally, several parts of the country are expected to experience power interruptions today. Kenya Power says the interruptions will take effect at diverse times between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. and are necessary to facilitate system maintenance. Counties to be affected are Nakuru, Nyeri, Kirinyaga and Murang'a. Kiambu will also be affected. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamera.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start.
A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kisumu.
Ben low, nin inte, nin there, ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. he has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And he must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard.
It's the second day of the week, and where are you this morning? It looks like it's going to be empty streets, at least for now, as we're getting into it proper. Coming off a Thika Superhighway, we're not seeing much of traffic as you get through. Let's look at it all the way from Ruiru out through towards Githurai, past Kasarani, and then into the city. Nothing. At least not for now. It's a few minutes after 6 o'clock. Let's see what happens as we get through it. Langata Road is not looking bad at all either. Coming off the Eastern Bypass, we're not going to see any traffic, not at this point. Huruhaya, we're seeing some movement as you get into the city, and it's going to slow down right there on Haile Selassie. But it's all to watch. Let's see what Tuesday has in store. Help us out here as well on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 11 minutes after 6 o'clock. It is the 16th of July, 2024, and we're here. Good morning. How are you? I hope that the day is already starting bright, and I hope that the worst of today will be the best of your tomorrow. Hey, I'm just feeling deep this morning. I've tried, have you? Sisi, good morning.
Good morning, dude. How are you?
I am fine. I don't know what's wrong with Eric. He's behaving like a snapping turtle.
Yes. Eric is holding his head. Because it is his head.
As opposed to somebody else's.
Holding anybody else's
So now where are you going?
Si kichwa ni yangu.
Mimi naingia hapa chini.
Ndio?
Naenda kutafuta headphone. Shida iko wapi?
I was not aware what
Tafuta headphone hapo.
I was not aware what was going on. I'm talking to a man, suddenly he's
gone. Unaona mpata. Say hapa headphone.
Sawa basi.
Thank you very much, sir.
A man on a mission.
Clearly.
See that? It's called a disappearing act.
Yeah, as in you're talking to somebody, now you see him, now you don't. Sindo?
Hey, ni Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Monday ni kazi. Tuesday ni mandamano. Wednesday si jali. Thursday ni mandamano. Friday. La 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 la.
Can you imagine? Hey.
Kenyans are like that. Anthem after anthem.
Very fast.
Anthem after anthem. If it means you remix it, you remix
it. Drop a hot, drop it.
Yeah. Havo, mambo namna that.
Well, how are you this morning?
Mimi niko salama kabisa. Yes. Hofu kwako.
Acha wewe.
That's a spirit.
Yeah, you don't just be telling me things, even you.
Even you receive this.
Ednah umefanya hivyo? Ednah amefanya hajafanya hivyo. Lakini wacha tutufanye tu. Anyway, let me tell you what we shall discuss. Now that the cabinet has been disbanded and there's talk of what, do you think there's going to be now a change in the way government operates when the new government is reconstituted? Dunstan Omari, advocate, will be joining us at 7 a.m. Let's hear his views, right? Sindio? Wacha tusikie your views namna that. And then at 8 o'clock, we shall look at the last 1 month or so and what's has been happening in the country. So we have seen that this Gen Z movement, what they're doing is they are organizing online. They are mobilizing online. They are fundraising online. They are doing all these things online. How are they doing it? Somebody who's been... is a very, very good guy in terms of online analytics, understanding what people are doing online, just looking at the analytics, is Mark Kaigwa. He is the founder of a company called Nendo. He'll come and speak to us. Reject, Occupy, and Free. Gen Z's shift from social media to social change. When they started, people were like, to social media, to keyboard warriors.
What are those?
Keyboard warriors, kazi yao ni kelele tu. Kuna mahali wanaenda. What?
Shockaroo on you.
What? Yesterday, Cyprian Nyamomu told us about, looking at all those revolutions. And he told us, look, pre-independence, the revolution, how did it go? Did we achieve what we wanted? And then thereafter, other revolutions, the second liberation, push for a new constitution. Here we are. Look at those Kenya's aborted revolutions. Are they aborted? Were they really aborted? Did they actually happen? Mark Bichachi, communication strategist, comes in at 9 a.m. and we'll have that conversation with him. At that what? At that point. Sawa bwana. Aye bwana. It is 6:15. This is the only show that you will find multicasting. We are not a radio show, we are not a TV show, we are not an X show, we are not a YouTube show, we are not a Radio Garden show, we are not a TikTok show, we are not a Facebook show, we are all those shows.
We're everything.
Everything show. And so we are live in all those places that we've talked about. If you are somewhere on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, and you can post a comment and say good morning to everybody else who's online, do so. Ndu is telling us the weather forecast shortly. We will then salimia wewe.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM. intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Salimie kadhaa.
Godfrey Nyanyuki says, good morning from Minnesota. Richard Makiadi says, leo ni ile siku tuanguka naye. Okay, sawa. Alex, good morning, says no bonging. Peter Kiarie says, good morning, team. Good morning to you, Abdi Aziz Omar, tuned in from Cork in Ireland. Ellen Paul, we see you. Good morning. May today be the day. Okay. Sawa. Frederick Chaboy says, good morning, tuned in from Boston in Massachusetts. I can see all Martha, Evans and Tabo. Paulo Kimani says, good morning, stay warm. Ali Adel says, good morning, tuned in. It all started this way in Sudan, Libya, Egypt, Syria and Somalia. Okay. No peace. Let's pray for peace.
Yeah.
That's it. Eshafan Gikonyo says, hey, Ndu City, Eriko Wambaji. I occupy Spice FM. Well done. Okay. Tuning from Doha. That's where Collins is this morning. The Kikombe says, good morning. Who are the MPs of Matuga and Banisa? Why are you asking? Nowadays, you don't just ask like that. Joel Adondi is tuned in this morning and he says it is burning. IBC. He says it is burning hot at 110 degrees Fahrenheit in Kansas. Yes. And you ask, is that fellow a cover-up or the real serial killer? Well, one must ask, mustn't one? Gerald Taiti says, good morning. People listening from Florida's surely Kwani Kenya life doesn't matter anymore. Surely, Liz, just shame even with the DCI story. It's just fake. Okay. So George Gashori is tuned in this morning. Lakeni Rock says, good morning. Jambo situation, I'm getting you loud and clear, says James Kamau. Joe Munga is also here. Freedom Konge. Collins Kamei is here as well. Aisha Rashid is tuned in. Gerald Tiati is also here this morning. We see you. Jacinta says, good morning, people. Isaac Mwai, we see you. Collins, yes, we got it. Agri Momanyi is here. Alex Mnai is also tuned in. Tony Malila, we see you. Yukas K says, I was today years old when I learned that it is CT and not sweetie. Anyway, I refuse to conform, so he's sweetie for me. He's sweet.
Those
on
two
you.
are fungible.
They're fungible.
All right.
Those two are fungible.
Yes.
Funge them. Linus Gitonga says, Hungary situation watching from Tharakanithi as a great team brings us real happenings on the table. Asante. CT Endu. Hey, that's a new one. Endu. Okay. And Latiff. Endu without the air. It'll work. Irene Wairimo, good morning. Dr. Venvik is tuned in from Tudor in Mombasa. Bernard Okello is also tuned in. My goodness. See, you guys have filled the room today. We can see you guys, all of you. None of you are left out. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us.
Karibu Kilamutu City. We are in Cabo Verde.
Yes, we are.
You told us that the diaspora there is more than the diaspora in the country.
Yeah. Yes.
Almost twice the citizens of Cabo Verde are outside.
Well, there are more people outside than they're inside, Nisma.
It is one of those things. Amazing, isn't it? Anyway.
Reminds me of, what was it? Osmosis and the other, and diffusion.
Diffusion. What goes up, what comes in, huh?
Moving from of high concentration to low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane.
Attacks.
Having a moment, aren't you?
Yeah. Those things were.
Where?
Right.
Yes.
Proverb for today. The bat hangs upside down. You heard this proverb before?
No?
You should ask Eric.
You just continue.
Okay. The bat hangs upside down.
Hey, good.
Ni proverb, by the way. Okay, sawa. Ni proverb. Tunaendelea na proverb. Okay. Because of the words told to it by the sun.
Well, the sun don't shine.
Oh, the sun. Okay.
Sun. Sio mvulana. Sio mtoto wake.
Na hii bat ni bat gani?
Ile bet.
We're bat.
Ile kama ile Batman, unajua
ile Batman.
Yes.
Ile anaendesha Batmobile.
Yes. Unajua huyu jamaa?
So the bat hangs upside down.
Yes, it does.
You know, this is upside down. Kwani, how else does the bat hang?
Stop it.
Right.
So that you can see the sun.
Yes. Because the sun because of the words told to it by the sun. So
we are still talking about a mammal.
Yes, we are.
Oh, it's the animal thingy.
The animal, the mammal.
All right.
The blind one. That actually does hang upside down.
See cricket bat.
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah. Let me just stick with what I said originally.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Headlines, please.
Okay. On the front page of
On the front page of
Imagine.
Front page of
On the front page of the Standard, running out of excuses, there's a picture of the president of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, looking at his watch. It started with blaming the opposition. It went to former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now it is non-governmental organizations that are being accused of fanning the Gen Z protests. However, government seems to be groping in the dark on how to address the governance issues it faces. That's what it is. Corruption case that fell Ruto man at KRA. The Kenya Revenue Authority Chairman Anthony Mwaura told the court that the president knew about his graft case. An argument the court dismissed as quite unfortunate and arrogant. As in, you've come and we've told you, and then you tell.
Yani, your evidence
the president
is that
knows.
Surely.
If the president is aware.
Why are you asking me these things?
Why are you asking me? So you go and ask him.
Why?
They said, what? You're being arrogant. Kuna mali unenda. Quarry. Why DCI says it's a serial killer. Police yesterday paraded a 33-year-old man they claimed is behind the horrific killings at Kenyans, but Kenyans are raising questions on the arrest. Many questions are being raised. Why almost all probe reports will likely gather dust. It's on page 13 of the Nationals. A newly raised road levy likely to stir protests. I don't doubt it for a second. All eyes on Kagame as Rwanda votes, and we're looking at 99% of the vote in his favor already. The election lineup is a carbon copy of the 2017 election, when Kagame obliterated his rivals with almost 99% of the vote, and there is little doubt about the outcome this year. It looks like he's already got this one in the bag.
Yeah, already to go past 97%.
Yeah. On the front page of The Nation, is this man the serial killer of Quarry? Police say Collins Jomaisu Khalicia, 33, has confessed to killing 42 women, and dumping their bodies at the Quarry dump site. But while detectives have found their main suspect, his alleged neighbors, both in city, slum and village, say they don't know him. Uproar as state implements 7 shillings fuel levy increase is craziness. According to Ruto, foreigners are funding protests. Ford Foundation, interestingly enough, is an American organization, and one would wonder, I thought the Americans were friends of Kenya. But okay. So again, looking at the Spain triumph in the Euro Cup, Rwandans vote in poll expected to extend Kagame's 24-year rule. And on the back page of The Nation, Audit reveals, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
1.4 trillion shillings in questionable borrowing, according to Nancy Gathongo, the Auditor General.
1.4 trillion in questionable borrowing.
Yeah.
Yo utatuambia.
Kabisa.
Woi, Jesus.
I'm telling you.
Business Daily. Safaricom earns, when someone calls you, you pick, and then here, you have received a reverse call.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
press one. Right?
Where we nakubali?
Yes. And then there's the other one of, if you don't have airtime, you're told to do what?
Okoh
Jahazi. Now, those two, Okoh Jahazi, and you have received a reverse call. They have earned Safaricom 40 billion shillings.
Get out of town.
40 billion shillings. More than half of Safaricom's voice usage in Kenya is now powered by a mix of loaned airtime, freebies, and donations from those receiving calls, underlining the decline of this business line amid increased competition and growth of alternative communication channels. It's a decrease. It's a 40 billion shillings.
Oh, it's not increasing. It's
decreasing.
Okay.
Voice, whose revenue peaked at 95 billion shillings in the year ended March, was initially the primary means of communication for Kenyans who bought airtime for their lines in cash. A weakening of the business in subsequent years has seen Safaricom respond with aggressive promotions and innovative ways such as allowing subscribers to borrow so that you can continue calling. Lakini watu wamesema nini? Tupige simu. Tuna WhatsApp. Haya. There's a company called Bamburi.
Mm-hmm.
There was news recently that there's a Tanzanian company that is seeking to buy Bamburi stake, like almost 100% stake. Tanzanian conglomerate that's seeking to acquire 100% stake in the Bamburi for 23.6 billion shillings. Bamburi Cement Company, all right? Now, Bamburi is a listed company. And there's one man who plays the game very, very well in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. He is over 80 years old. His name is Balubai Patel. Billionaire investor Balubai Patel doubled his stake in Bamburi Cement ahead of the announcement of the company's buyout, augmenting his expected gains from the proposed transaction. Shareholders' filings as at June 30th show that Patel's stake in the cement firm rose to 30 million shares, which is equivalent to 8.41% of the company's issued shares. This is an increase from 14 million shares, or 4.12%, that the company's latest annual report shows he held at the end of December. End of December, guy had 14 million shares. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
End of June, guy has 30 million shares.
An increase of 16 million.
He owns the stake through his holding company Aksaya Investment Holdings Limited, making him the largest individual shareholder in Bamburi. Swiss multinational Holcim is the majority owner of the company with a 58% stake, followed by a nominee account domiciled at Standard Chartered that holds 15%. All right? So, now you can imagine when these guys come and they splurge the 23.6 billion shillings, these Tanzanians, Mr. Balubai Patel will be sitting there and saying,
pretty.
Very good. Niliwaonea 18. Nikajipanga. Okay? City, tell us about the start of rally.
Yes. Today is that day when the top right-hand corner in teal green reads free copy of the Star and MyGov.
Okay.
Shake-up looms as Ruto team maps 47 parastatals. Okay. Civil servants have been thrown into panic, yes, following President William Ruto's recent declaration that 47 state corporations would be folded up in cost-cutting measures. The president said state corporations with overlapping roles would be dissolved and their mandate transferred to ministries and state agencies, while others would be merged. Okay? A criteria for how they're going to do this is important. We need to know how, why. Every parastatal which is folded, dusted, whatever, one has to understand why. Okay? Not just where funga, where kwenda. Tear gas jolted lawyers to fight for Gen Z protesters. Okay? This is a story on page 3. Just cause. Cruel world. It's a dog life for a woman whose kids were defiled. This one I want to read. Despite justice being served, the journey continues to be arduous for a single mother in Quarry County whose 2 daughters were defiled by a neighbor. 6 years later, the traumatic memories persist, haunting the mother who sacrificed everything to ensure her daughters received justice. Her DJ's daughters were defiled in 2019. Anyway. Radical changes. Among those facing the axe is economic expert David Ndii.
Allah.
Bang in the middle of the paper, PSs and advisors on Ruto's chopping board. Okay?
PSs and advisors?
Yes. Yes.
Our advisors, lakini wengi, my friend. Do you know there's an advisor for advisor?
Yes.
If there's a guy who opens the door for the ADC, who opens the door for the president? Surely an advisor will have an advisor.
Success of sweeping reforms will be crucial to determine the trajectory of his presidency. Then in the paper, you find a picture, a very interesting picture of Gen Z revolt now turns to MPs' hefty salaries and allowances. In case you thought that it was business as usual.
Aishi,
and someone was saying these guys haven't planned. They know exactly what they are doing. It is step by step by step by step. Yes, today they're going to the counties, are they not? Right.
Yep.
I would like to be a fly on the wall.
Kisumu,
I'd like to be a fly on the
Quarry,
wall to see the sort of panic that must be.
Oh, that brings, I'm looking for ile screenshot ile ya nini mambo haya Taifa Leo.
Umeona lakini?
People daily lakini bana
utaipata bana, usione wasiwasi.
Bana. Nakana haipatikani.
Ili tusiende mbali na
Africa.
Yes, Afrika Mashariki. Task for Rwandan leader in new term. From building,
they're already predicting that he's on.
Yes. Yes.
So now they're outlining his tasks.
From building an economy characterized by high taxes and debts to dealing with Congo row, the president's job is cut out for him. Yes, he has two people opposing him. There's a gentleman called Philippe Mpanyimana, independent candidate. He says, we will introduce poor policies and turn around the agricultural sector.
Okay? All the best, man.
It was going left, we're going to make it go right. Okay? Then there's a gentleman called Frank Hibeneza, Green Party candidate. I'll make sure rates are reduced by 20%, charged by banks to 12%. Okay? Yes, that's the caption.
Wow.
Right. And the beat goes on.
Okay.
And the beat goes on.
Yeah.
Hey. There's a friend of mine who's in Rwanda.
Yes.
And alinitumia vile magazeti kule anasema. The New Times in Rwanda. Incumbent President Kagame has picked up 99.15% of the vote in the presidential election, according to partial provisional results after 79% vote count. That was early last night. 79% of the votes had been counted. The guy had 99.15% of the vote.
Sasa hawa watu wa 20% to 12% ni kama it's a little.
The thing is this, the country now knows who you are, and perhaps in the future, because they look much younger, perhaps in the future, you may have an opportunity. But for now, it's very difficult to claw your way. 99.1.
And you had 0 points.
Essentially, you got 0.9.
0.1.
And there's two of you, so you're sharing that 0.9.
Well, yes. So the agricultural sector can wait, and the interest rate can also wait. Yes.
Or maybe you can just sell those ideas to this guy. Tell him, how about, but then this brilliant idea, it could work.
You know how they call to concede? I would like to work with you, and I had this idea.
The people have spoken.
24 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so here we are. Let's take a look at what's happening real quick on the streets. And actually nothing. Doesn't really matter where you look. If you're coming off of Outer Ring, coming off of Thika Superhighway, coming out of Westlands, and even on the Eastern Bypass, coming in from Ruai, nothing happening really. Getting onto Huru Highway, all the way from Mombasa Road, and then out towards Next Gen, through towards Haile Selassie. Nothing's happening here. At least not for now. Let's see what happens as we crawl into traffic hour later, and let's see how Tuesday will look. We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Actually, kwambia vile 1.4 trillion shillings imeenda before we come to this story of the serial killer.
Okay.
Audit reveals 1.4 trillion shillings in questionable borrowing. The Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu, has raised concerns. This is interesting that she's always raising concerns.
That's her job.
That's her job, you know. Did I raise the concern? Yes, I did. Well, Shikenang. Over the legality and usefulness of 1.4 trillion shillings in commercial loans contracted by the government without consulting the Attorney General and using them for unintended projects. So two things happened here. One, you didn't consult the Auditor General, and you're supposed to have, the Attorney General. And number two, they seem to have gone where they oughtn't to have gone. Oughtn't. Gavungo made the revelations in her report on a special audit that shows that 39 loans procured externally with a span of 11 years from July 1, 2010 to December 31, 2021 exposed the government to risks of entering into agreements whose terms are unfavorable. So took it really quickly, didn't talk about what it means in terms of repayment and all this. You would have exposed yourself and you should have told us about it, but then there's a question as to why you didn't tell us about it. The audit of September 2022 specifically puts the National Treasury's Public Debt Management Office, whose job it is to seek the legal opinion of the Attorney General before loans are procured, under the microscope. So what were you doing is the question. The questionable debts are already being investigated by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, with individuals at the National Treasury having recorded statements. So they've already said what they know or do not know. The audit shows that 26 of the 39 loans contracted externally during the period under the review did not have the opinion of the AG, who is the government's legal advisor. Who was the AG before JB Muturi?
Justice Kihara Kariuki.
Okay, and before?
Before that was Professor Gedemoiga.
Thank you, and then there was Amos Waka before him. Okay. So now they're supposed to look into all of this. They should have said, they would have given an okay to these loans, and apparently from what Nancy Godongo is saying, they cannot see any evidence of that process having taken place. So of course there's a big fat question mark right there. DCI is doing investigations, people are being asked to record statements, they're already doing that. The question is, what happens after they find out all this information? The ODS debts are debts that have no benefit to the people. So if you find that there was money that was borrowed, was supposed to go towards development, it did not, where did that money go? If it didn't benefit the people, it is ODS. People have to answer.
Sheesh. My friend. My friend. Kwani ukora gani has been going on in this country?
My friend, 1.4 trillion shillings. I keep saying 100 billion shillings today. Put it in the economy. You will feel it. Do a development project for 100 billion shillings. How much did the SGR cost? 350 billion, and it goes from Mombasa
to Nairobi.
Right? You would have done 5 of them with this money that they say they can't find, that they didn't feel it. You'll feel 100 billion shillings somewhere in a development project. You will see something. So it is, of course, highlight when you say 1.4 trillion shillings has been borrowed, it's being paid back, but we cannot really see where it went. This is a problem.
How much trillion?
1.4 trillion.
That's a big amount.
Boss,
you put in something that big, you'll feel it.
That's what.
What?
You need to stop.
Oh, okay. You go on.
I'm done.
Is this man the serial killer of Quarry? Police say Collins Jomaisu Khalesia has confessed to killing 42 women. Now, I didn't see this press conference by Mr. Amin.
You should have.
Eh?
You should have.
How was it? Please describe.
They displayed things on the table.
So they came out
with boxes. Then they
the IG of police, the DIG, acting IG, the acting DIGs,
flanked by their investigators,
the DCI, and then
in less than a few hours, they've been able to zero in on this suspect. And these are the things that they found in his house. Multiple ID cards, they put them on the table. Gloves, they put them on the table. 2 phones, they put them on the table, and said that they've now been able to pinpoint that this fella is the guy, and this is all the evidence that they've been able to retrieve between Sunday night and now yesterday at around noon o'clock.
We see.
Okay.
As millions across the world were watching the Euro 2024 final match between England and Spain, Kenyan detectives were busy in a nocturnal sting operation to capture a man believed to be the mastermind of Merkaba killings and dumping of bodies at Quarry Dam site in Embakasi, Nairobi. Exactly 1 hour after the match ended, some locals in Kayole who had met at a joint to follow the entreating clash were still talking about the results when a contingent of police officers pounded on one of the fans. Unknown to them, the nabbed man happened to be Collins Jomaisu Khalesia, 33 years old, who is said to have orchestrated the heinous crime, act of murdering, dismembering, and later disposing of the bodies of his unsuspecting victims at the now infamous quarry of death. By 8 a.m. yesterday, Jomaisu is said to have revealed shocking details to the sleuths who were interrogating him in a tell-all confession where he allegedly admitted to have killed some 42 women between 2022 and July this year. Briefing the country on the updates of the Quarry dump site saga, the DCI Chief Mohammed Amin yesterday said the suspect was smoked out using a mobile signal that had been on their radar. It's the transaction of mobile money transfer using Josephine Mulongo Owino, one of the victim's phone numbers, that led detectives to the suspect. His first victim, the suspect allegedly confessed, was his wife, identified as Imelda, who he said he killed in 2022, after she ran down a business that he had opened for her. He told us that he killed his wife out of bitterness, that he chopped her and dumped her at Quarry, but all these statements are subject to investigation. He is a person full of vengeance and hatred. DCI Amin said, adding that the suspect had a predilection, that one, for beautiful women. What?
Predilection.
That one. It was not immediately clear how the crime busters arrived at the conclusion, given that Amin and his team did not provide photographic evidence of the dozens of women that the suspect is said to have killed. So how do we know whether they were beautiful or not? Moments before he was busted, police say the suspect was actively luring his would-be next victim, a woman identified as Susan, who has since been invited to record a statement. Officers involved in the raid said the suspect stays about 100 meters from Quarry dump site, an abandoned quarry from which at least 9 bodies of women have been retrieved by Monday evening. Amin says the suspect, who he termed as a psychopathic serial killer with no respect for human life, led the investigators to the dump site after confessing the killings. Several paraphernalia believed to have been used by Jomaisu were also found in his house, and they were displayed to the media at the DCI headquarters. They included 24 SIM cards, 8 smartphones, 2 feature phones, 1 laptop, 1 hard drive, 2 flash drives, 1 memory card, 1 machete, and 12 nylon sacks. Others were a pair of industrial rubber gloves, 1 pink female handbag, 2 female panties, 5 rolls of bang, 4 clear sellotape rolls, 1 nylon rope, 1 reflector jacket, 2 title deeds, 2 notebooks, and other assorted documents. We believe that this machete is the one that he was using to dismember the victims. We are likely to arrest more people because we believe he was not acting alone. Another unidentified suspect was also arrested in connection with the Quarry incident after he was caught in possession of a mobile phone belonging to one of the victims, who was identified by her family at the city mortuary. The second suspect, the police said, will, after being interrogated, be of great assistance in the case, either as a witness or as an accomplice. Although the police said that they had cracked one of the country's most shocking murder cases, locals in Quarry are saying, Hatumujui, there's a story, we don't know him. Quarry residents and villagers say of the suspects. For starters, the locals told the nation that they had never seen anyone resembling this man, whose photo was shared by the DCI, and therefore could not tell who the police had arrested. Okay, but this guy was arrested in the company of people in this area. So, and the people that he was arrested,
Do they know who he was?
That's just someone.
Sorry,
Nakuru Social Justice Center coordinator Anami Ture said immediately DCI shared the photo. They contacted hundreds of locals using their social media platforms, including WhatsApp. No one knew the alleged suspect. Anami Ture has been here before. We've talked to him. He says, we are certain that by now the person who was arrested is not known here in Quarry. We are wondering who exactly that person is, and we want the DCI to explain to us where they arrested him from.
I'm sorry. At the very beginning, you read he had
people were watching football.
No. When he talks about when he's said to have killed his wife. When was that?
In 2022.
2022.
Yes.
So that's 2 years ago.
Yes.
And he dumped her, according to this story,
he says,
in Quarry as well.
He claims so.
He claims,
yeah.
or they claim he said. Okay, that's interesting.
And it's because he had opened a business for her. She did not manage it well.
So he offed her.
So he killed her.
Okay.
So he said. So they say he said.
So they say he said. Okay. I don't think is there such a people don't believe that this is coincidence. That or rather what happened then between Sunday nights, so many gaps here, that what happened between Sunday nights and Monday morning. Remember that the police declined to do any kind of excavation or retrieval on Sunday. They declined. So then one would assume that they were doing all this investigative, Inspector Clouseau business on Sunday, between Sunday and Monday morning.
Or from the first day.
Or from the first day, Friday.
Particularly from this woman who is the one, the dreamer.
Yeah.
The dreamer. You see, the dreamer, at least we have identified one person, right?
Her
Well,
sister.
not identify. Yeah, we know that there's one person who's gone missing.
Yeah.
And the dreamer says, come, right?
Yeah.
So from there, then the police have something to work on. The dreamer says, my sister was called by somebody. So track this number, track the calls that.
So these are
have
the
interacted
pieces
with
that
this
they
number.
use to connect.
Yeah, track the messages or whatever. Yeah, track any M-Pesa that has come. Then look at this. So who's this? The last person who had called. The last person who had called this person, they're called from this number. All right. So where is this number? Is this number active? When was this number last used? Where was it?
Okay.
Tracking backwards.
My issue here is, however, that what is the definite string that is tying this gentleman to these bodies that were found? Is there some DNA on this machete that was supposedly used? Has there been testing that has been done between these bodies and the DNA on the machete, if there is any? Is there a direct link between the supposed many SIM cards that they found, the ID cards, the phones, etc.? I know that you say that there's a number that they've been able to link, but unfortunately, this can be called circumstantial evidence.
It's still early days.
It's still very early days.
They could argue that, you know what?
But they've already labelled him a serial killer.
What based on his confession.
Okay, based on what they've said he said.
Yeah. So you see, you can argue that the first thing that they do is try and track back who is this person who last spoke to these people that we know. All right. Then you go and arrest this person, and you're just chancing to ask them, you had called this person, right?
Yeah.
You had called this person. Why were you calling this person? Why are you looking for? Wacheni niwaambie tu ukweli. Nimeua 42.
Bibi yangu alafu nikaanza hivyo.
Yeah. So you just chance on it. Like guy confesses, like what? Uliwaweka wapi? Niliwakuwa nafunga nini? Unaishi wapi? Let's go to the house. They go to the house. They find gunny bags. They find nylon. They find all these things that look like, yeah, it's possible. Then you find all these many SIM cards there. Ulikuwa unatumia hizi simu lini ya kuwapigia simu?
Yeah, okay, I see.
So if you find all those things, if you're an investigator,
I mean, it's...
and you use this one, and then you land here, and then person says, actually, I can, they...
Jackpot.
They immediately just come and tell you, yenyewe ukweli.
Got me.
And you go there and you find paraphernalia that can almost link. You are happy to announce to the country that, guys,
in less than 24 hours, we've cracked this one.
Oh my God, guys.
Well, does DCI have the ability to do that? Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
So, in this particular instance, is this one of those cases where we see DCI doing what they are supposed to do? Or are we seeing something that we're not quite certain of?
I will go with the latter.
Why?
I just think that...
What are the doubts? Let's start. You, Ndu, go. Doubt number one.
I mean, that whereby we have seen things take forever. I'm just going to go with Shakahola.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with Shakahola.
Yeah.
That even one person, out of 500, 30 of those have been identified.
Yeah.
And we say that it is the same security apparatus that should be operating. And we have many, many more people, many of them Kenyans, having lost their lives in this one area. And it's taken over a year to even start to do anything. And then in less than 24 hours, we've run into this information, we've run into this evidence, and by golly, a guy comes up and he says, yeah, actually, you know what? It was me. I'm the one who killed all of them. Here you go. Come
you
on.
doubt.
Hey.
City, what's your doubt?
Call me Thomas.
No, mine isn't a doubt. Mine is, I want to see how this thing is going to unfold for this simple reason. Somebody who has killed, by their own confession, 42 women.
Yep.
Have we in the past, recent and in the distant past, heard of situations where there were women missing and alarms were raised? We hear very often, and we even see it in the papers, when one person is not two. If 40 women are missing in a certain area, would we not hear of it? We have not heard of it. Okay? Now, Or are we assuming that the bodies were simply dumped there, but not necessarily killed in that particular area? Still, 42 is a large number. Okay?
Over 2 years.
Even if it's over 3 years, 42 is a large number.
For one person.
Yes. So,
it's not a large number of people to have died.
No.
Many more have died.
But 42 women. You see, if it's people, you'd say it's mixed. Women. Nobody missed them. Nobody understood that they had gone missing. Alarms were not raised. Okay? Let's say in a big city like Nairobi.
So what's your doubt, City? Are you doubting that these are actual human bodies?
No, I don't doubt that they're human
nobody
bodies.
has reported people.
I don't doubt that they're human bodies. I'm just saying I need to hear a lot more than what I've heard so far. Okay? A person coming out of the blues to confess. It is not impossible that somebody can do that. It just seems a little too convenient.
Yeah, I agree with you. I need a little bit more.
You see, okay, let's try and give the benefit of the doubt from this other side. Okay, number one, that these are actual human bodies.
Yes, they
that
are
here. Okay. Number two, you do not know who they are.
No.
Or where they came from.
No.
Or how they were lured, how the bodies ended up here.
No, we don't.
So it's possible that there are police reports somewhere, or reports with the chief's office somewhere, that somebody is missing over the last 2 years. In fact, we remember we've read stories here of there's a time when there was a spate of missing women disappearing.
Yes.
And being found dead. There was a time we did a story like that. We read a story like that.
We did.
So there are such stories that are there. All right? Number one. Number two, on the issue of Shakahola. Yes, Shakahola is a big thing. We still haven't unraveled what's happened in Shakahola, but there are many other cases that the DCI have solved. Murder, unknown. Disappearance, unknown. Kidnapping, unknown. Crime, unknown. And they have solved. They also have a list of success stories. Same thing, using the same thing. Murders, tracking, going there, arresting, finding all the evidence, linking this with that, and in a pit. So it's possible.
It is, but he killed his wife, he says, because he had anger issues.
Yes. She didn't do well in the business that
exactly.
Yes.
No, this case was not doing well. The business collapsed.
No,
okay?
The business collapsed.
Collapsed kabisa. Now, the point is, what would have been the motive for killing all these other women?
He had a predilection for beautiful women.
Then who is explaining this?
See, he told the DCI
he was asked,
people.
So he was asked, why women?
Has this guy been taken?
So first of all, he's angry at his wife. So I mean, you are the guy
projecting.
You're the guy who'd be telling us this city. This is what you've studied. He's angry at his wife. Does it move on to just getting angry at women?
Yes, it is possible that happens.
Right?
It's very, very possible.
So then
who look like his wife?
Yeah, he basically just goes. Yeah.
It is very, very possible. All I'm saying is, first of all, this guy needs to be taken to a mental facility.
This is true.
So that we determine whether he's seeing his own things or whether there's some element of truth to it. As I said, it's too convenient, in my opinion.
I think so too.
That's number one. Number two, each of these women, when they're identified, I am sure the identification will tell a different story from what we're hearing.
Absolutely.
So, arguably, it's early days yet. But again, it points to the efficiency of DCI. So whenever we hear that there's a story dragging Shakahola, case in point, then we have to ask, okay.
So are these the same guys?
Clearly not.
Or the people who've been missing for years.
Yes, and you're saying they can't...
There was a popular security analyst on TV from Meru. He disappeared.
Yes.
And the family to date don't know what happened to them.
Exactly. He's not the only one. Other people have disappeared.
Many other such cases.
So the question one asks is, okay, so this efficiency, it's when they want to be efficient.
Exactly.
So when they don't want to be efficient, what is it that...
Two places then with your case, essentially, is what happens. That because this efficiency, and I think it is marvelous that if that is actually the case, that they've actually been able to find this in a very short period of time, then absolutely fantastic. But then can we see the application of this thing in every, and not just one, in every single case that presents itself in this nature.
Do you remember the Dusit case? Remember,
within hours, the
they
guys
had sorted that matter out conclusively.
They knew who was where on Kiambu Road. He lived here with his girlfriend. Did ABCD in hours. They knew what was going on.
Yes.
So it's not a question of whether they're able or whether they can be efficient. We know this, but then why don't we see the application of such across board?
Even if
that's what causes doubt.
If the reports were in different police stations, police persons talk to each other.
Voila.
At some point, there'll be an OCPD. At some point, there'll be an OCS. They will say, look, I'm seeing this problem in these areas. Okay? DCI would have been alerted. I'm simply saying this. There's a lot we don't know, so I will wait.
I need more.
Until that more is unveiled.
Thomas wamejai Kenya. Everybody in Kenya should just be called Thomas so and so. Thomas Ndu.
A little caution. A little caution.
Never hurts anybody.
Before one arrives at a firm conclusion, a little caution.
Pepper it with caution, as they say.
It won't harm.
And also it points to the thing that we've been talking about for a long time. There is completely breakdown of trust with government and all its institutions.
Absolutely.
The first thing you hear from government is like
uongo.
Even if it's true.
Kuna.
Unajua kesho ni Tuesday hapana.
Nani amekwambia?
Ni gavana inasema?
Yo lazima. Kama ni gavana amesema ni uongo.
Uongo. Prove it. City. There was a story.
Yes. Of the disturbing one of the defilement of the one who...
Yes, this one of defilement, which is on page 17. I'm actually going to just talk about it in exactly 30 seconds.
Please do.
Okay? This is a story that emanates from Quarry. Okay? You know some of these stories, Bwana. Age 13 and 8, at the time, Hadija had to wait for years to get justice. Okay? My two daughters were hurt deeply. It's something that shattered my heart. Despite justice being served, the journey continues to be arduous for a single mother of Quarry County whose two daughters were defiled by a neighbor. Even 6 years later, the traumatic memories persist, haunting the mother who sacrificed everything to ensure the daughters receive justice. In 2019, Hadija, that's not her name, were defiled and life took another turn. Her daughters were 13 and 8 at the time, and one of them living with a disability.
Spice up your life.
This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. President William Ruto has accused the Ford Foundation, an American NGO, of financing anti-government protests in Kenya. Speaking in Nakuru County, Ruto alleged that the American NGO has been channeling funds to unidentified groups to organize protests and create instability in the country.
And I want to call out those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya. Shame on them, because they are sponsoring violence against our democratic nation. Mimi nataka niulize watu wa Ford Foundation watuambie hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani? We are going to call them out and we are going to tell them if they are not interested in democracy in Kenya, if they are going to sponsor violence, if they are going to sponsor anarchy, we are going to call them out and we are going to tell them they either style up or they leave.
The Ford Foundation opened its offices in the country in 1963 against the backdrop of independence in the East African region. The organization has over the years supported courageous leaders on the front lines of social change in the country. Gen Zs are to hold another round of protests today to pile pressure on the government to take accountability for the lives lost during previous protests sparked by the now withdrawn Finance Bill 2024. Activist Boniface Mwangi has confirmed that the protests will go down as planned until the government takes some form of responsibility for the deceased protesters. The government has maintained that 25 protesters died during the protests, but the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights put the death toll at 41 and 360 injuries. In Turkana County, young people are to hold a peaceful march to the county government offices to demand transparency in the provision of employment opportunities in the devolved unit.
We already have an intel that kuna watu wanatoka kesho Eldoret wanaletwa ku counter demo the demonstration ya kesho yetu. We are aware that they are going to kuchoma ofisi ya governor, kuchoma ofisi ya MP.
Hatutaki mtu atusimamie sisi siku zote. Hivyo sisi wenyewe tunajisimamia, lakini sasa hivi kama wanasiasa wameweka siasa, imekuwa ni mambo ya siasa.
Constitutionally tuko na ile right ya kuongea. So kindly let's start out tomorrow and the governor should expect us. Kwanza sana sana ni yeye ndio tunamtaka kwa sababu the moment tunatuma MCs wetu they are not doing it. Tukituma MP wetu he's not doing it. Unaona? Sisi wenyewe tumeamua tukuje tumtafute. We'll need him tomorrow akuwe available kwa ofisi yake so that sisi wenyewe tukae chini tumwambie.
This even comes as former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga warned Gen Zs of forces out to water down their resolve to demand better governance. Mutunga said the Gen Zs have started a revolutionary mass movement that is likely to face various challenges if it aligns itself with any faction of the ruling class. In a post on his X page, Mutunga also urged the young people to think about the protection of those he alleged may be targeted and demand justice for those killed during the protests. As investigations into the Quarry killings continue, women leaders have called on authorities to do more to prevent femicide cases. Led by Council of Governors Chairperson Anne Waiguru, the leaders have appealed to authorities to establish gender desks at police stations to gather reported information on crimes related to femicide in order to track them down easily. They've called for collaborative efforts to ensure suspects in crimes relating to gender are prosecuted and victims' relatives receive the assistance they need. Here's Anne Waiguru.
We call on the government and relevant authorities to provide support and counseling services to the families of the victims in this time of mourning. It is essential that we come together as a community to support those who are grieving. We are also committed to ensuring that there is enhanced capacities for all sectors in government and in society to continue advocating for the protection and empowerment of individuals and especially women across Kenya.
Donald Trump has named U.S. Senator D.J. Vance as his running mate, further elevating the Ohio Republican who has adopted the former president's populist agenda after years of pointed criticism of Trump. Vance's early political commentary was often marked by scathing remarks about Trump's leadership and policies. However, over the past few years, he's made a dramatic shift, embracing Trump's populist rhetoric and aligning himself with the former president's vision for America. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, so what are we looking at? Traffic on the roads this morning? Not much of that. Actually, nothing at all as you come off the Thika Superhighway. Even at our beloved Pangani Tunnel, nothing is going on here. You're able to get through towards Muranga Road without an issue. Globe Cinema is moving well. Very little traffic here. I mean, it's negligible, really. A little bit of traffic as you come off of Outer Ring, heading out towards that Manyanja Road junction. But again, negligible. As you come off of the Eastern Bypass, coming in from the Ruai junction all the way through towards North Airport Road, that is free. You'll be there in like 10 minutes. Just please do be careful. Northern Bypass then going towards Kiambu Road and coming off of Limuru Road as well. No thing. Let's see what happens as we get closer to traffic hour. We'll talk on SpiceFM. KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 after 7, how are you doing? Welcome. This is the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. It's Tuesday, the 16th day of July, 2024. Wherever you're tuned in from, whether it's on the X Spaces, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok Live, on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, on Radio Garden, Karibu Sana, and thank you for joining us. City, all those people who are tuned in everywhere have a chance to win 1 million shillings.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They do.
Courtesy of?
Standard Bank. They do. Sometimes when you are given such news, you are likely to be skeptical. So why don't we begin by removing that skepticism?
All right.
Standard Bank is an existing entity. It's actually a bank. All they're saying is this. If you have an account with us, deposit 50,000 shillings. If you don't have an account, please open an account and deposit 50,000. Why 50? Because the 50,000 shillings enables you to automatically enter a monthly draw, but it also gives you an opportunity to enter the big grand draw. Now, the monthly draw, you stand a chance of winning either 300,000 shillings, 200 or 100,000 shillings. Okay?
Every month.
Every single month.
There's a draw.
Yes.
Okay.
Then there's a grand draw. Now, in that grand draw, you have the opportunity of winning 1 million, 1 million Kenya shillings, zero sitter, 1 million. Okay. Second prize is 500,000 shillings. Second runner-up is 300,000 shillings. Now, it doesn't end there. You may want to buy a house. You may, in the process of buying a house, talk to them. They are going to offer you an interest rate of 9.7%. Ad infinitum, meaning, well, not forever and ever really, but for the time and the duration of that particular mortgage, you will be able to enjoy
up
that
to 25 years.
Kabisa, hiyo ni yako unaweza kuenjoy. Yani mpaka you get old.
Imagine.
You get old.
Well, yeah.
Depending on where you are now.
25 years, add 25 years to any age, even if it's one.
It's older.
Yes. Well, a 1-year-old can't actually open an account. Well, it can be opened on their behalf. But the point is, enter the draw by simply opening an account and depositing 50,000 Kenyan shillings.
Voila?
Yes, voila.
Hiyo voila ni mzuri sana, hiyo voila ile.
Yes.
Ile voila mzuri sana, hiyo voila. Ati, Mr. President yesterday was in Nakuru.
And he said that foreigners are funding protests, and he was even shouting. He was angry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Soma your story.
Now, President William Ruto yesterday issued a stern warning, a stern one no less, to foreign entities undermining Kenya's stability and democracy. Speaking in Nakuru ahead of today's planned protests, President Ruto cautioned against any attempts at a revolution and anarchy, saying his administration will not tolerate such actions. So, he came out guns blazing yesterday. He accused foreign sponsors and organizers of anti-government protests of instigation, unrest, specifically singling out the American-based Ford Foundation. He said that those behind the chaos will face the full force of the law. Okay, I'm not quite sure if Ford Foundation facing the full force of the law here in Kenya, but okay, that's left to be discussed. He was speaking in Kerrigat in Kurisoi South, and I quote, "Kenya is a democratic country governed by the rule of law and run by democratically elected leaders, and all we want is peace. We cannot run our country through anarchy or revolution. We will ensure that whoever is sponsoring the protests is met with the full force of the law." He further condemned those who claimed were influencing the youth to cause violence and mayhem. Again, I quote, "Our youth are not available for retrogressive assignments. Those sponsoring them to cause violence and mayhem must be ashamed of themselves." We ask the Ford Foundation to explain to Kenyans its role in the recent protests. If they, the Ford Foundation, are not interested in democracy in Kenya, they should either style up or ship out. We will call out those who are bent on rolling back our hard-won democracy. The Ford Foundation is yet to officially respond to the president's allegations. And his assertions, an email response from their press office indicated that they would be in touch shortly. President Ruto urged Kenyans to maintain peace and focus on the country's development. He expressed regret over the controversial Finance Bill 2024, which was withdrawn following widespread protests led by Gen Z, stating that the bill's rejection had disrupted his development plans, including a 130 billion shilling allocation for infrastructure projects. So he's going to keep going back to that. It's going to oscillate between, I wanted to do this, but, we rejected the bill, so I had to pull it away. But here we are saying that essentially what's happening here is that there are foreign entities that are funding these protests and that will bring about mayhem and criminality. So the aspect of criminality and mayhem has never been lost from his sentiment, that he still believes that this is actually what is going on, and chooses to stay away from the injection of criminal elements in what was really peaceful protests. So he's still battling with that.
So those who are protesting don't have an issue. They're just protesting because they're being funded. Is that it?
That this is the problem.
So there's nothing that the country feels isn't working right, that there's nothing that is happening that needs rectifying, and there is no blame that can be apportioned to this government.
According to what President Ruto is saying here, is that these things have gone to the extent that they have gone to, and they've ballooned in the manner in which they have, because they've been wind-assisted by foreign funding.
They've been wind-assisted, maybe, by foreign funders, as they say, but beginning with the Uhuru government, who in many instances, a government in which he was deputy president, seemed determined to roll back the gains of the constitution that we have. Now, every president has things we'll remember them for. Diluting Chapter 6 is one which will remember Uhuru for forever.
Or chucking it out the window completely.
Yes, exactly. And if you are talking about democracy and rolling back the gains of democracy, Uhuru did his bit, President Ruto is doing his bit. The circumstances and situations in this country, are we saying they don't exist? Are we saying that people are living within their means? Are we saying that every hungry person in this country has enough to eat? Are we saying that all those who seek employment or opportunities have opportunities? Are we saying that people can actually afford to live in this country without wondering what's going to happen next? Are we saying that there is no burden of tax that the citizens of this country are feeling, and that everything boils down to some entity called Ford Foundation, who are the ones who've masterminded everything that we're seeing in this country?
What we are saying is, for the last 60 years, all those things that you're talking about, they've been there for 60 years. Okay? It's nothing new. Okay? It's just like saying that we have had this dry wood in this area for all this time. Nothing new. Never caught fire. Suddenly it's up in flames. Someone started the fire.
Ford Foundation was there from 1963, were they not? Yes. So in all those years that they were there, they could see this fire, this dry wood. Did they light the fire?
Why didn't they light it then? And look at the circumstances that we speak of. Look at the words that we use.
They're choosing this time.
Well, you could say that they're choosing this time, but you could also say that things just flow into one another. Who starts a forest fire?
Somebody in the forest.
Precisely. Or is it the circumstances
that have come together at one point that the fire now,
all those things come together,
the wind has blown in a particular direction.
Yes.
It's dry enough in terms of
the sun can set off a forest fire.
And then they come together at that point. But look at the words that we use. What is Renaissance? If you look at the word itself, it's that there is a rebirth, there's almost a reawakening, and there's a realization that, hold on a minute, we can actually start to do things about when we see something going wrong. And I think that it is disingenuous to equate what people in Kenya are saying they cannot take anymore to just foreign funding. I think it is disingenuous to say that, you know what, the people who cry every day because we cannot afford life anymore, and that we need you who we've elected to actually perform some kind of good governance, that we need you to be aware that we put you in office to be able to do 1, 2, 3, that you, the executive, are the vanguard of the livelihoods of the people. It is disingenuous to take all of that and to lump it under foreign funding and say it is because you have money and
this is how opportunities are missed.
You miss an opportunity.
This one we're seeing right now and reading this. An opportunity for reflection, for humility is being missed as we watch.
Directly.
As we watch. The time for change and sitting back and rethinking and reevaluating. Guns blazing, people to be blamed. This government began its march by blaming the previous administration, which the bulk of these people were in anyway. It doesn't occur to them that they're blaming themselves because it was somebody else. It is always somebody else, is it not?
It is always somebody else. There's no possibility. You see, you have to understand something. That once you get to a certain level of politics and in society, you have to look back and realize, I'm actually cleverer than these fools. I mean, that's it comes naturally. You realize it is because of your sharp mind and wit and foresight.
A unique ability.
And unique ability that you've gotten to where you are. Okay? So you cannot in any way fathom that those nincompoops down there can wake up one day and even have an ounce of the unique abilities that you have to think. And to start seeing, we also actually are in this position and we deserve better, that we can get opportunities. It's impossible. You've got to realize that. It's not the first time. In the 80s and 90s, you remember CT, when there was this clamor for multi-partyism, and when people were gathering, and Kinanjero Kasang were organizing Sabasaba, and Kinamatiba and Rubia were making noise, and Kinashikuku and Orengo and Paul Moite and all those things were doing this. What did Moi say? They are being foreign funded.
That's exactly what he said.
Moi said, there are enemies of this country who are funding these people to make noise and destabilize a peaceful country. This country is the bastion of peace in the region. Look around. Look around. Everywhere else there's violence. This country has been peaceful. Those people, because they are jealous of what we have guarded so dearly, our peace and stability, they want to destabilize it. The possibility that actually they had an argument for pluralism, they had an argument for multipartyism, they had an argument for a more open and inclusive society was far-fetched.
You see, in my language there's a saying that by the time you go to relieve yourself of a hurting stomach, it is not at that point that the rumbling started. It is not at the point of relief that the pain started. You just happen to see that at that point. So the question you often ask, are these people tone deaf? Are you not hearing what people are saying? The rumbling started a while ago, and I often ask, at what point will wall hit wall? And people say, well, there's no way going back, so we're going to push through this wall in order for us to get through. People are pushing through the wall, but they've been pushed to the wall for the longest time.
But there must be somebody who's inciting them.
No, there doesn't have to be somebody who's inciting.
Batimayo was seated there. Batimayo, you know Batimayo?
This is the problem.
Do you know Batimayo?
I don't know.
Batimayo, that guy in the Bible. It's called Batimayo.
Bartimaeus.
That guy. So Bartimaeus.
The blind fella.
Did you know that's the name?
Bartimaeus.
Bartimaeus. Batimayo was seated somewhere.
It's Bartimayo.
He's blind. He is used to begging for people who are passing, from people who are passing by. He hears this noise. And then this chap with magic fingers does his tongue, touches ground, touches his eyes, Bartimaeus sees. Were it not for that guy, but I would still be blind.
No, I think unfortunately what this does
in this country, you Bartimaeus, you have been touched.
No, you're insulting
in your eyes.
You're insulting the intelligence and the fatigue of Kenyans of poor governance. That to the point where Kenyans have reached, and they're saying, you know what, Sasufi, it is enough. It is enough. And people are actually speaking up. But you want to say, actually, you know what? These guys actually love me. They actually like what I'm doing. The government is peaceful. The governance that we see has worked all of this time. It is unfathomable for you that people can go against this thing that
Let
you
me
have
ask you
been
this question,
doing.
Do.
Come on.
Who do you think presidents, not this one, presidents plural, listen to? Because statements of that nature are made by people who believe that A, they're intrinsically good, that the people love them, and that people are happy with whatever they are doing. So anything that seems to be the contrary must be led by some foul element who are determined to besmirch an otherwise good name. Who do you think these leaders listen to? Do you think the people who speak to these presidents tell them
the truth?
Bro, this thing is really bad. No. Or is it people love you? But you know, people like so and so are the ones who are causing these problems. Okay? For once, Raila's name hasn't been mentioned yet. It will be mentioned. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to come up and say, no, it's Raila who's pulling all these stunts here. If they don't mention Raila, you're going to hear...
They've done Uhuru already.
Bas, Uhuru's name will be mentioned. And believe me, someone's going to mention Gachagwa's name.
Already.
Why is it that you are at the helm of leadership and you don't seem to understand? Because such statements tell you that the leader is not in touch with the reality of what's happening in the country. How does a leader lose touch with the reality in the country? Let me quote something from Shakespeare. King John, okay? So foul a sky clears not without a storm. It's been building, and there's one unique thing that was mentioned yesterday by Yamamu. He pointed it out. It is what you call the youth bulge.
Yep.
We've never had in this country this number of young people. Older people have always been more. Now it is 71%. My friend, that number is huge. Okay? And they, unfortunately, don't see why they should put up with certain things. It's not complicated. The older people have found ways of coping with it, because when you went through the Moi era, then all these eras you reach now, you become philosophical. The younger generation don't have time for philosophy.
No. You do it right or you get out. It's very simple.
Yes.
You do it right or you leave. And this is the question that's being asked of you. And this is the problem here, whereby somebody calls you out and you can't handle that.
No,
you really can't handle it. So the only way to deal with that thing that you feel because of being called out is to blame somebody else and say, now these guys aren't really coming for me. Somebody else is assisting them, and that's why it's coming. If not for that, they wouldn't attack me.
Do you know what the person is also saying? That I am actually okay.
Yeah, everything is all right.
Everything is all right.
Yeah.
I am doing the right thing. Can you not see the things that I am planning? Can you not see promises which began with the Uhuru government, many of which were not fulfilled, have continued this government? More promises have been made. Nothing wrong with promises. Point is this: people need to simply be assured that they can eat for the day. No, forget these many things. And that they are secure. Their children can go to school.
Shikena.
They don't want to live in mansions. They don't want to drive cars. No, not really. They just want to be assured that when they wake up, there's something they can do that can earn them money so that they can get on with their lives. It is not a big ask. Now, if that seems to be constantly and furiously disappearing in your rearview mirror, how exactly are you supposed to respond or react?
You can't.
Well, what are you supposed to do?
You can't but fight back.
And it's true that youth bulge is the actual present danger.
Yes, it is.
And the presidents, even Uhuru, acknowledged it. Even Kibaki acknowledged it.
Yes.
Unfortunately, none of them was actually working hard enough
to do anything about
it.
Yes.
So it's reaching that level because it was years of everybody seeing where we are heading and nobody taking action.
Yes.
This is where we are at. Because yes, like we say, every new year, 1 million people are getting into the job market.
Yes, they are.
1 million people are leaving school every year.
Yes, every single year.
Every single year. 5 years, 5 million. Like that.
And every 5 years, 5 million people have entered that age of voting.
Yep.
You have
people
5
are coming
million
of
people.
age.
Yes.
And those that came of age 5 years ago are now starting to get to that age where they need to start families 5 years, 7 years later. And they're getting there. So 7 years later, after you cleared school, you haven't really found a meaningful means of employment. You are there, you're now thinking to start a family. You don't have anything to start a family with. What do you think is happening? All that frustration is building. And those that have been in positions of leadership over all those years have not done anything to actually address it. It's just been plan this, plan the other. One could argue that the Kibaki years, that thing of saying, let's elevate our economy to a middle-income industrializing nation, then that would have addressed the job, that would have addressed opportunities and all. What did these guys do when they came in? This Vision 2030, we just tick boxes.
They engaged reverse gear, Bwana.
And we start doing things.
They went on a borrowing spree.
And not putting that money where it mattered.
They did not. They did not. It's an unfortunate situation, but they did not. Consider, I take Ubers literally every day, and I always chat with the gentlemen or women who are in that Uber. The stories are fascinating. Fascinating in this sense. First of all, diversity. The number of Uber drivers who went to school, went to university, went to college, have a skill. Those who had jobs, they trained, they were in the market, they were working, whose companies have folded, so they no longer have jobs, they're now Uber drivers. Those who work in the evenings because wherever they're working, salaries have been slashed to the point where they realize I'd better take this little that I have because I don't have anything else, and they supplement it with what? With Uber driving. As I said, the diversity of stories are many. And every day, it's like I hear a new story. Every single day, I hear a new story. And I marvel. The thing, though, that I find interesting, these aren't bitter people. No, they just tell you the story. You're just chatting and they're telling you the story.
As it is.
Yeah, they're saying, but this is what I used to do. Yesterday, I had one driver who fascinated me. He told me, you work at Standard. You have an SAP system that you use there. It's called this. I told him, and how do you know all this? He said, well, the company that set it up, I'm the one, I used to work for that company. I am actually trained in ICT. Okay? And I'm the person who did this and this and this and this. He knew this building very, very well. He gave me details.
He installed the system.
Yes, he's among the people who installed the system. So I asked him, so how did you get here? He said, well, the company folded up. How did you fold up? He said, well, we also did business at the Central, with Quarry. And then something happened and we're told that the system we had put in was going to be replaced when a new government came in. We were owed some 600 million shillings, which were never paid. The company could not survive that particular loss. I said, hey! That's what I said. So I said, so here you are an Uber driver. I said, me, I'm fortunate. At least I have a car which is mine, and I can do some Uber work. So I'm not. Said some people are much, much worse off than I am. Now, what am I saying? When you have a situation where you have human resource that is trained, and they're doing mundane jobs that you do not necessarily need to study and specialize in, there's something quite amiss in your country. You need to sit and ponder.
They have been, it's not that they haven't, they have been seeing it.
Yes. Even
Uhuru Kenyatta as president has actually publicly acknowledged it and said, we have a youth bulge. We need to do something. They know it. When William Ruto was campaigning, he knew the shida of the youth, and that's why he was addressing them. He was addressing them. When you're saying kijana ya boda boda, he knew the boda boda guys are these jobless chaps, and this boda boda is their means of a living. The others are selling kinyozi. The others are selling boga. The others are these are the guys he knew, right? And his solution to them was he sold them hope. And they bought the hope.
By the bucket load.
And then you come in and you don't deliver. You come in and you assume because these guys listened to you and they bought the story that you sold them, they could not think beyond that.
You can keep them hooked to more stories and more promises.
Yeah. So now when they start questioning, because they've been trained to a level of thinking, critical thinking and asking questions, they have gone through an education system. When they start asking questions.
Okay. So we've had the promises.
You say, oh, they can only be incited by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the problem comes.
And that is an insult. You're saying these people can't think.
That's what I'm saying. It's an insult to the minds of Kenyans to imagine that because they're questioning you on the very thing that you promised them, the only way that they could imagine to question you is because it is funded and assisted by an external party.
Yep.
Height of insult.
Completely. And all our leaders have done that.
Yes, they
do. Just slapping it here. Kazim Tahani was reopened yesterday.
Kicking the can down the road, yes.
The Kazim Tahani thing was the same kind of thing. It's just like a bandage. Kazim Tahani, go and sweep Ninis and we'll give you 6,000 bob. How long can you actually do 6,000 bob? If these people are not working enough to earn enough to contribute to the tax kitty, where will the 6,000 bob come from tomorrow? It'll come to an end. And they knew it. They knew it.
It was a band-aid.
The Youth Enterprise Development Fund, started by Kibaki, was that, right? A solution. Here is access to credit. Get into enterprise. Then we support in other ways, where then we are talking about industrializing this country. What did they do? They killed it. Ate the money, ate the seed, ate the tree. Walikulata mchanga.
Then Youth Fund came. And then what happened?
Let's take a break. It's 27 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and be amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
It's a chilly morning in Nairobi, 14 degrees. We'll see highs of 21. 24 will be the high and mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 16, and it's 14 and cloudy in Nyeri, going to highs of 20. We'll see highs of 22 and a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 16. Mombasa 22 is cloudy with highs of 29 and cloudy conditions at 24 in Malindi, going to highs of 29. It's 21 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 28, while at 18 Kakamega will go to highs of 26. Kampala at 18 is cloudy, highs of 29, while Dar es Salaam at 23 is sunny, going to highs of 30. Johannesburg at 5 degrees clear, highs of 20, while Mogadishu is sunny at 26. We'll see highs of 29 and cloudy conditions after the rain in Addis Ababa, going to highs of 19. It's 25 and cloudy in Lagos with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 20.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
All right, so traffic in the city, not a problem today. Coming off the Thika Superhighway, we've not seen anything at all. Even at the tunnel, it's going through clear all the way to Muranga Road and then through towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. Onto Huru Highway, out to the city centre. Inbound also from Westlands, we're not seeing a traffic issue today. even into traffic hour when things should be bustling. Right about now, it's not. We'll talk through the morning. Let's just see what pops off. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Our conversation continues this morning on Spice FM, KTN Home, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, X Spaces, everywhere we are, including Radio Garden. Asante sana for joining us. So we're talking about what is it that we are seeing in the country right now. We're seeing the youth coming out, and the youth. Yesterday, Cyprian Nyamamu from Kenyabora to Itakayo mentioned a couple of things. One, these are the children, or actually it was even Jeremiah Kioni. These are children who got free primary education. They went into 100% transition into secondary school. They were in secondary school, they've finished, they've gone into university, they're finishing, and they're coming out and they're finding, all right. So the reality, things for ground are this. And when they look and they come back home and they listen to us, their parents, and how we're talking, and the frustration that we're expressing, they sit back and they're like, what's this? Because they can see their older siblings, the millennials, it's the same kind of thing.
Yes.
I saw my brother, my sister going through school. I saw my brother, my sister finish school and go through the frustration of trying to get a job, and they're not getting a job. They're trying to start a business. They can't start a business because they just are not able to run a business.
Or they start a business and something happens, the business can't continue because something has changed.
Yeah. And they're saying, and I'm also going into the same. No, something is wrong. So when they start asking themselves, what could that wrong be? And they start consuming this and they hear, right, so taxation measures versus spending. And they have been seeing the spending. And the spending, according to how they see it, is, first of all, spending. We are seeing no capitation going to schools. We are seeing doctors are on strike because they are not getting paid. We are seeing doctors on strike because the interns are not going for internship. We are seeing all this. Like, there's something is not working here. It's got to change. And this is not unique to Kenya. Historically, countries that have gone through a youth bulge have that. And that's why people talk about the demographic dividend. Are you going to reap that dividend, or are you going to waste it and it bites you? Today's proverb is, when the bat is upside down,
because of the words spoken to it by the sun.
So instead of looking at and saying Ford Foundation has done this, okay, what is the underlying issue?
The question that I really want to ask is, you know, every time I listen to the president, in my mind I believed and I listened and I say, you know, at some level, our president seems to really want to change things. Because I listen and I can sense a note of sincerity.
There's something that he wants to do.
Yes. But somehow he never seems to get to do it. The things he starts, and you can see what he's trying to do with this thing. But somewhere along the line, something comes up and it doesn't quite get to what it's supposed to be.
What's that though? And I think it's interesting for us to be able to dissect that a little bit, because then what is it that stops you from doing the very thing that not once, not twice, not 3 times, maybe not even 10 times, you've told people that we will do this? So what is that thing that precludes you from actually having it done? Why? When you talk about corruption, when you talk about making sure that you're going to put, you know, some kind of sustenance in the hands of Kenyans over and over again, what is it that stops you? Even more so, where is the realization that this thing that you said you would do does not happen, but that you still stand atop a podium and tell people again and again that I am going to do 1, 2, 3? What's that? Is that a phenomenon? What is it? What happens that you just realize, or you don't realize, that you've made a promise that you have not kept? And even in the wind of things, when people are telling you directly, this is not being hidden. This thing that we're talking about is not being hidden. It's not people whispering in clubs somewhere or whispering in their homes. It's right in the open. It's black and white. The emperor is indeed naked. We've been told exactly what we expect. Kenyans have told you that we cannot continue with the status quo any longer. Things have got to change. And yet, somehow, in some warped reality, you still come and tell them, I wanted to actually spend 130 billion shillings on infrastructure. And they're saying, no, this is not what we're talking about. In the same breath, you said Ford Foundation is funding you, but actually want to spend 130 billion on infrastructure projects. There's a dissonance here.
There is a dissonance. Yes. There is a dissonance. So is it that you have the belief that you can do great things, but you haven't taken stock fully of what it will actually take to get those things done?
I think so.
Yeah.
It is prosperity preaching. You're selling prosperity on hope. I'm saying if you believe, it'll come to you. If it doesn't come to you, it's because you are short of faith, not action. It is imagining that the problems that you have today can be solved immediately, and not acknowledging that these things will take time. They will take time. Deng Xiaoping, and you keep reminding us about Deng Xiaoping, in 1978 takes over as the leader of China.
Yes.
And he knows that what we have to actually go through years and decades of sustained change for this to happen. This is not unique to that. Many countries, when they're coming up with plans, they are thinking future plans. They know that it's going to take us sustained effort and remaining on track to get there. When they were doing the Vision 2030, and Anyang' Nyong'o and Mwai Kibaki and the others, they knew, let's start something. But then it'll have to be supported by the various critical pillars. There will have to be a social pillar. There has to be an economic pillar. There has got to be, and those ones have to move. And leader after leader needs to come and just build on it. But they stopped. They do the paper, they stopped. And then those guys who come in want to have immediate solutions. Our immediate solution will be just do roads, 10,000 kilometers of roads. Let's do rail. Let's do this and the other. And it'll have immediate impact without doing all these other things. Collapsing the free education in the process.
Collapsing the school
Collapsing school feeding in the process. Collapsing healthcare in the process. Collapsing all these others in the process. And saying it's because we are doing the roads. It's because we have brought electricity. We are trying to get electricity. They don't want.
And it's because we're building new houses.
Yeah.
Houses are good, man.
And the houses will give you jobs today.
And
so
then
when you get a job today now,
the houses will be complete. Yes. And when they're complete,
then you have no population to buy the houses.
And the work that you are doing will have come to an end. Then what?
See, these are the issues. Like you said, City, it is, yes, thinking and acknowledging the problem. In terms of problem identification,
100%.
You got it. This is the problem. The solution that's needed, okay. The route to realizing the solution.
You know, and then one notices a sort of a contradiction of sorts. Because, yes, we see these plans, but there's something that then rings a wrong note. Amidst all these things, one doesn't see flourishing industry, one doesn't see flourishing commerce, and yet one sees a new class of people who are flashing material wealth. Wealth comes about when you add value to something and there's a demand for it, and people are able to afford it. With our population, if more people could afford goods and services, we'd actually be a fairly wealthy country. Because there'd be a lot of money going around. But in our case, that is the complete opposite. So how do you then explain a situation where a whole new class of people seem to be very, 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 in the most vulgar way possible, portraying material wealth, and yet even if you look at the individuals, there is no industry, no commerce that you can attach to these people to say that, these guys have had a boon.
Their only claim to wealth is trading with government.
That's it.
All right? When somebody says, actually, it's not 1.2 billion shillings that has been frozen in my account, it's just 600 million shillings, and I trade with the government, that is their claim to wealth. When somebody does not say, you know what, I have a factory that does this and the other, I have a factory that produces this, I have a farm that grows this, and we are involved in the export of this produce. When somebody doesn't say that, when somebody actually stands at a podium and says, walifunga account yangu, it's at 600 million shillings, and all that money is trading with government, and that's your claim to the billions that you have, that tells you that this is where the problem is.
That's the problem.
Precisely, because
that's right there.
Yes, it is. And there's something they call cognitive dissonance. Okay. When people then again stand in those same podiums, or they give interviews in all manner of places, and they willingly start talking about their material wealth, it's not only obscene, it is sinful. There are people in this country who do not know where their next meal is going to come from. There are people who cannot take their children to school. God forbid they should fall ill, because you will now not know what to do. Unfortunately, the monies that we say is being used for the so-called businesses that some people claim they're doing, most times, whether it's in the county government or national government, is money that was intended to better the lives of these individuals.
That the basic bases are not covered.
No.
Right? And that we still want to be involved. And because this is the thing, that the bases are not covered, and you want to be involved in things that will bring in some big ticket dollars. I've often said that if you have a hungry population, if you have children who are out of school, if you have people who are unwell and cannot afford medical care and attention, if you have people who are unable to trade the little thing that they can do, if you have those people existence within the boundaries of a nation, and you have a functioning government in place, and you are not able to care for those people, you actually have no business doing anything else. There are many examples of countries. Look, the Irish potato. Think about where the Irish potato came from. Ireland suffered a huge drought. It was terrible. People were not able to eat properly for years. And they said, hold on a minute. We can be doing this whole dance with the United Nations, and we can be talking about how our place in the world, etc., but we're going to focus insular. First of all, we're going to grow this thing, and what can happen here? A potato, we can actually grow it. We can feed our people. Fed their people for years until they went into surplus. The surplus is now what they used to build the nation. Until today, we know about the Irish potato.
We even grow it in this country.
Exactly. Why? Because you realize that in order to grow externally, this thing that everybody is clamoring for, bring 10 trillion shillings in foreign investment into Kenya, do 100 million things, this, that. But you have a hungry population, and you have a minority of people who are making sure that their pockets are lined properly at the expense
continuously lined
of millions of people who cannot go to school, who cannot eat, who cannot be treated. There's a problem. And now these people rise up and say, cannot continue. And the only thing that you can say is that these people are being funded. They're actually not hungry. They're actually not sick. They're actually not uneducated. They're actually not able to take their produce to market. They are being funded. To me...
Eric began to tell a story, and we went into a break. Deng's legacy in China. He understood. He knew where they came from, but China had also faced a similar famine. That is, of course, aside from China's had disasters, but they had a plan, and he understood. He wasn't the person who's going to see that plan to the end. He knew.
He knew.
Just start
it,
and then it was handed over. And you know why? That system of theirs, if you look at it, it is, yes, you have the president, but that person is first among equals. That's how it works. Now, look at a plan that is concretized and that is set in motion, and look at what it has done. China just dug their head in and focused on building their country.
And they said we're going to do this.
Yes.
thing.
When they rose and lifted their head, you're wondering, God Almighty.
To the point that you have fully functional cities in China today where people don't live.
Yes. They've looked into the future.
Yeah.
How did China become the manufacturing hub of the planet?
It wasn't by accident.
No,
It was
it
planned.
was not.
It was not by accident.
And you know what they did? They have a resource. It's called the population.
Yep.
They put this resource to work. And look at the outcome. We have a similar resource. And I dare say, a very well-educated resource.
And hardworking.
Oh, yes.
Do you know the resilience of Kenyans? If you just think about it. In fact, I was just thinking about it as I was coming this morning, and I remembered a phrase that I used to hear a lot when I was working at Kameme. Marigiti netene, bogaita na hoha.
Repeat that in French.
So in French, you go to the market early, right? Mapema. And if you think about what it's saying is rise up early.
Yes.
Right? Rise up early. What happens? If you think about Marikiti and how Marikiti works, that system, if you're out on Thika Road or the Nakuru Road at about 9 p.m., you will see those trucks carrying produce. They are bringing the produce to Nairobi, right? By the time they're getting to midnight, those trucks are reversing into Marikiti and offloading. By 3 a.m., the mamambogas are in Marikiti buying that produce. Before it starts doing what?
Before it starts doing?
That one. The hoha. That's where the hoha comes in.
Before it starts going on fresh.
Yes. All right? 3 a.m. 3 to 5 a.m., Marikiti is busy. That's why we see on traffic here in the morning.
Traffic in the morning at 6 a.m.
At 6 a.m., that section of the road, Haile Selassie Avenue, near Marikiti, chock-a-block. Why? Because those trucks are leaving, going back to Nyandarua and Kirinyaga and
start
wherever.
again for the next day.
Yes.
And
they have delivered their wares.
Mkokotenis are leaving Marikiti to start taking these deliveries to wherever. They are going to South
And
Bay,
it's very early in the morning.
And it's that early in the morning. These are hard-working Kenyans.
And
They will do anything to try and make things work.
All they want is that opportunity.
It's the opportunity.
That's it.
When they don't get an opportunity here, there's a comment, somebody has posted a comment here, they're saying that they are in Canada, right? They are trained, they are qualified, they have a skill, but they went to Canada, they are driving trucks in Canada because they didn't get an opportunity here to work. It doesn't come here. Where is it available? I'm going to go. I'll do whatever it takes to do something.
Yes,
but I wish I was actually in Kenya doing what I trained to do. I wish I was in Kenya working what I was trained to do. And these are many, many stories. I'll give you the story of my brother, my younger brother, goes to high school, chapas his A. At that point, in the Kibaki years, because of Vision 2030, we are going to become an industrializing nation by 2030. So we have to focus also about industry. Kenyatta University has started a degree program called Bachelor of Science in Manufacturing Engineering, training manufacture engineers who will be thinking about plants, a manufacturing plant, efficiency of manufacturing. What is it that you put in? How do you get the output as efficiently and as cost effectively as possible? Guys go there. David and his classmates, they study, they finish, they come out.
They pass.
They graduate, right? Come out, and Kibaki has gone, and the new regime comes in. Manufacturing drops from 15% contribution to GDP, has gone all the way down to 7%. What do you think those manufacturing engineers are doing?
They've got no work. There's nothing they're going to do with that qualification.
Yes.
And yet it's a necessary qualification.
They were training for industry because the country was gearing towards industrialization.
That was the plan.
All of them are doing whatever different things they're doing.
And so, in some cases, you'll find they've actually gone and acquired other skills.
Yes.
Just so that they can cope.
But if the environment
Those
was right,
people sit back and they're thinking, when I was in school, I was actually studying and I was loving it, looking and cherishing the opportunities that are going to come out, and, think, how can we produce this better? How can I manage a manufacturing plant? How can I be a shift engineer and make sure that servicing happens on time? How can I look at it and see we are producing the best quality in the most effective way? And now here you are Uber driving.
Yes.
You are doing all those things.
Yes.
And when you ask those questions, you are foreign funded.
Eric, you talk of a story. There's one young gentleman, an Uber driver, who told me of his story and how he even went to college. His father died. His mother died. He was living with his grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
It's a neighbor who took him to school because the neighbor realized he was bright. He wore new clothes when he was in the university for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Shoes when he was going to Form 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He used to go to school in sandals. He got his degree. He's married, he has a child. He said he worked for 3 months, then the job came to an end. Because that entity was doing some business with the government, they had not been paid, they folded. Okay? He's driving an Uber. He was explaining to me and saying, I would rather park my Uber and join the demonstrators because I have come from very far to get to where I am.
Yeah.
Very, very, very far.
Yep.
Okay? And I looked forward to being able to do things because I saw it briefly for a few months and then it ended. I thank God I'm able to have this Uber I'm driving. I thank God. He said, but I was supposed to do more and I wanted to do more.
What was driving him, even through all that adversity, was the dream.
Yes.
He had a dream that was driving him.
Yes, he did.
Then you get somewhere and that dream is basically just snuffed out.
It's extinguished.
Extinguished.
Gone. And you're thinking, aye. Kwani. And the worst thing is, you look around you and there are people living in opulence and you're saying, wait a moment.
This can't go, this can't do. This will never do.
That opulence is supposed to happen when you have a rich country. When there are resources for everyone. Then it makes sense.
But in this situation, it will never do. And we go back to the place whereby the majority are watching these things happen. And the majority are saying, this is not on. This is not on. And that you in the minority who have been given the position where we voted you in, we've given you the position whereby you need to make sure that some of these sufferings that people go through should not be the case.
Yeah.
But we see the opposite. And then you slap their expectations in the face by telling them that they're funded by an external party where they're asking you to just do your job.
Or even below that, you look at your age mate who has gone into politics and he's saying, yeah, I have a helicopter. Yeah. He's a 33-year-old. Yeah, I have a helicopter. I have many farms. Okay, so this guy, what did he do?
How did he acquire this?
He got into politics.
That's it. So politics in this country.
So that tells you that the opportunities that I was looking for that I am not getting are buying helicopters.
Yes, they are.
That's the only thing you can deduce out of it. And that frustration is not foreign funded.
Nope.
That frustration is not being engineered by some external entity.
It's homegrown.
It's homegrown. It's real. It's a reality of our country. And if our leaders just dare listen to the people, they will see that this is the truth. And I'm saying leaders, whether it's those in current government, those in opposition who are in parliament, all of you, listen to the people.
Spice up your life.
Newswire, I'm Edwin Lisamira. Another round of Gen Z-led protests is expected today. Organizers say they are aiming to pile pressure on the government to take accountability for the lives lost during the previous protests sparked by the now withdrawn Finance Bill 2024. Activist Boniface Mwangi has confirmed that the protests will go down as planned until the government takes some form of responsibility for the deceased protesters. The government has maintained that 25 protesters died during the protests, but rights groups put the death toll at 41 and 360 injuries. This comes a day after President William Ruto appealed to the young people not to go back onto the streets. Speaking in Nakuru County, Ruto said he's already looking into the demands of the protesters.
Tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa hii market. Tunapanga ajira kwa hawa vijana kwa digital jobs. Tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa mambo ya export of labor. Tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa mambo ya manufacturing na mambo ya value addition na mambo ya industrialization. Kuna watu hawataki tupange vijana wafanye kazi, wanataka kupanga vijana wafanye fujo. We want to tell them we are a democratic nation and the young people of Kenya, they are not available to conduct violence. They are not available to have anarchy in our country. We do not have a spare nation. We have only one Kenya. Tuko na nchi nyingine tunaweza kwenda sisi. Mnasema tukae Kenya. Vijana wa Kenya mnasema tutaweka amani. Hebu nisikie tena, mnasema we want peace. Kuresoi mnasemaje? We want peace. Na Nakuru? We want peace. Na Kenya? We want peace. Yes, we want peace.
Meanwhile, Catholic bishops have appealed to Gen Zs to give dialogue a chance, but opposition leaders led by Martha Karua have maintained their resolve to give the talks a wide berth.
We therefore request that you open up yourselves for inclusive conversations so that you are also enriched by perspectives that may not be obvious to you. In doing this, you become attentive to the laws of God and bear true respect for others.
Dialogue is not necessary. What dialogue is necessary? To get all the senior officers in Nairobi who have been in place when this is happening to go home or be suspended. What dialogue is needed? To get police officers whose faces have been in the media shooting wantonly, killing people. What dialogue is needed for them to go home?
The prime suspect in the Quarry Dam killings is a psychopathic serial killer. That's according to DCI boss Mohammed Amin. In a televised address, Amin said Collins Jumaisi, who's 33 years old, confessed to killing 42 women, including his wife, whose body he also dumped at the quarry.
What is it that motivated this young man to do what he did? And what he told us was that he was married to his first wife in 2022. He started for her a business. She squandered the business. Started for her another business. She squandered the business. And out of bitterness, he chopped her into pieces and dumped her at the quarry. But that is subject to further investigations. So apparently he's a person full of vengeance and hatred. And he had a special predilection for beautiful women, according to what he told us. It is crystallizing that we are dealing with a serial killer, a psychopathic serial killer who has no respect for human life.
Meanwhile, Jumaisi's mother-in-law told investigators that she lost contact with her daughter in 2022.
Alikuwa amepotea, lakini sometimes alikuwa kwa mtandao anachat na wengine. Lakini wakati ilifika 2022 inaitwa account yake ikanyamaza. Hata akitextiwa hawezi kurudisha. Sasa tangia wakati huo sikumsikia tena, ndio nimesikia leo ripoti ya aliuawa.
Several parts of the country are expected to experience power interruptions today. Kenya Power says the interruptions will take effect at diverse times between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. and are necessary to facilitate system maintenance. Counties to be affected are Nakuru, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a and Kiambu. In Rwanda, President Paul Kagame has won a crushing election victory. De facto leader since the end of the 1994 genocide and president since 2000, Kagame scored 99.15% of the vote, the National Election Commission announced after 79% of ballots had been counted. It tops the 98.79% he won in the last election in 2017. Democratic Green Party candidate Frank Habineza got 0.53% of the vote, and independent Philippe Mpanyimana garnered just 0.32%. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
All right, at 8:05, very little traffic on the roads this morning. I don't think we're going to have to deal with that today. It's not going to be a problem. Roads are empty. Of course, folks are being a bit cautious because of Mandamano Manenos. Hey, there's a thing. Let's keep an eye on things as they do progress through the day. We haven't even seen your proverbial traffic coming in to the Pangani Tunnel on the Thika Superhighway. Off the Thika Superhighway, rather. So we're going to keep an eye on things and see. The weather's looking a bit gloomy, but I think everything is going to be all right. Is it not? Let's see how it progresses. We are in traffic hour. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X. # the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 8, we're on to the third hour of The Situation Room. How are you doing? Thank you very much for keeping it locked. And now we continue our conversation. We want to look next at social media, how this Gen Z movement has moved social media, just conversations from keyboard warriors to people who are just whiners to actually taking action. And we are joined by Mark Kaigwa. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Nendo. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
That's the hot seat of The Situation Room.
Doesn't feel so hot as of now.
Of course it doesn't. You're here to help us understand and unpack things, right? You'll tell us a lot about Nendo and what you do. But before that, there's something we wanted to tell our previous guest that we hope to have, Denson Umari, in the last hour. And that's about the best health insurance in the region. What do you guess the largest insurance company in Kenya and East Africa?
The largest? Wow. Oof. I'm going to guess that it's not who you think it is, in that it's maybe a mobile solution or something where people don't even know.
Are you a politician?
No. Oh, gosh. So they answered the question. I was going to guess it's a telco or someone unexpected.
Not yet. Not yet.
Really? Okay.
It's still not yet.
It's a fairly analog company. Analog in the sense that it's been there for, it started off as an analog company. And for it to have grown to be the largest in the region, there's nothing Gen Z about it. Except perhaps the products that it offers.
Yes.
But in terms of its age, it's a Cro-Magnon. It's been there for quite a while. Yes.
There we go.
It's an old company.
Yes.
Okay. And City, tell him the name.
It's called Jubilee.
Okay.
You've heard of it.
Indeed I have.
Yes. No, it's a polite sounding name, so one may even assume it isn't big, but it is the biggest. But now Jubilee has done something to a thing. And the something they've done to a thing is they've looked at the population of Kenyans and they've said, some of these products we have are good, but we could offer a little more. And that's what they've been doing. There are those who call it upping their game, okay? Trying to meet the needs of the client. Finding out what does the client actually need. And then saying, okay, this is what you said you needed. Here, we present it to you. And there's a large array of facilities that are offered. From those who are young to those who, like myself, are clearly not in their first youth and onwards. Yes.
And all those packages... Very, very easy to subscribe. It's very easy to pay your premiums. You get 24/7 support. You get evacuation services. And the thing about health insurance, if you have health insurance but you go to any facility and they tell you here to Jui, then it doesn't work for you. So they have at least 700 health facilities in Kenya where you can walk with your Jubilee Health insurance card and you'll get treated. I mean, when you say the biggest, what do I say?
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. Okay? So what's the number to call?
0709 949 000.
0709 949 000.
Yes.
Somebody was saying that they'd called that number and it wasn't being picked. Just keep calling.
Pick it up. Yes.
They will pick.
I like how you all know it by memory. I'm like, this, well, not to talk about Gen Z brains too early, but I like how that was instantly summoned and called upon with no counter-checking, no hesitation.
Like that. Okay. So, City will give you the day's proverb. You know the drill. You listen to the proverb. You give us your interpretation of the proverb. So this week he's decided, last week, this week, and he's even said even next week, he is doing island nations in Africa. This week you're in?
It's Cabo Verde. Otherwise known as Cape Verde. That is if you're speaking in English.
Yes.
But it was a former Portuguese enclave. The proverb. Listen carefully, Eric. No giggling. The bat hangs upside down because of the words told to it by the sun. When I said Eric, I meant you as well. You.
Moi?
Yeah, Eric is generic for both of you. The bat hangs upside down because of the words told to it by the sun.
My interpretation.
Yeah.
Your interpretation.
All right. Wow.
Not the interpretation you think we want to hear. Your interpretation.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. No amount of preparation could have prepared me for this one. I would assume to myself that the bat hangs during the daytime, and the words of the sunshine are the bright light, the pinching heat, and everything amongst the creature world that awakens. So the second the sun starts talking, the bat goes upside down. What?
My goodness.
And this man is a poet.
Yeah. Oh, when I held a deep breath, I was like, let's see.
What? So what's the lesson here?
Okay.
Oh, the lesson of
hang your butt upside down.
No,
Stop.
this is why you said to be quiet.
This is why he was asked to be quiet.
Okay, now I get it. Know the environment you thrive in, and know when it's time to leave the stage. The other one on the bat and the butt.
It's B-A-T. You know, I work with funny people.
Oh, indeed.
As you can see. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that interpretation. So tell us about Nendo. So you founded Nendo.
Yes.
What is Nendo?
Yeah, at Nendo, we're intensely curious about what people do with their mobile phones, social media, the internet. And we solve for that either through research, publications, interviews, surveys, studies, or marketing. So just helping change people's perception, behavior, sort of what marketers, for better and for us, call their trade. But within all of that, just still always curious about how these mobile phones in our pockets and purses have changed everything from how we meet, how we connect, how we learn, how we disagree, and everything in between. So that's us at Nendo.
So when you say you're curious, so what do you do? Are you a research company? Are you a...
So both a research company and a marketing agency in one. So that the research is very action-oriented. You can do something with it, and we know what to do with it in many cases. And the marketing is insight-led or inspired by actual research and spending time with people. And so that's where the two worlds collide, and that's how we serve the clients we have and the continent at large. So excited to, like even right now, have some projects going on in Nigeria, in in just different parts of the continent and different languages, all solving for the same core question and curiosity of these phones, this internet, this social media we know of. What does it open up and what opportunities does it unlock for us? And even Gen Z and the protests have been an area that's drawn quite a lot of our attention recently.
Mm-hmm.
How so? Because, I mean, look at when, a number of decades ago, the mobile phone was, invented, created.
Mm.
And the thought was, well, I can then speak to somebody without having to go to a landed phone and dial up whatever that was. But I can now move around with it and speak to whomever. And so the thought was that, I can pick up the phone and call somebody or send a message, and that's about the size of it. So what progression have we seen over time whereby it's dialing and, sending to now, today, where revolutions have been able to occur where, anything you think of it and it can happen because you have these gadgets in your hand. What kinds of things have we seen?
Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating. I think for us at Nendo, one of the things that has really been so curious for us to watch has been not just the global phenomenon we've seen with smartphones and the internet broadly, but now some of the local trends. And that's something we've tried to make a name for ourselves in, is not just saying where we are now and giving stats and data, but trying to make predictions and forecasts about what comes next. So one example from a few years ago was explaining how in the West, the way the internet would spread was through at some point, this is gonna age me a bit, so but it was dial-up, right? That's literally how you would connect on a desktop, computer exclusively. And then if you follow how even the Western mindset of the internet was, it was all PC, right? So desktop computer based. And in Kenya, something fascinating happened with the proliferation of mobile phones. I mean, I had a SIM card before I had a phone. I'd literally go around to relatives and say, Uncle City, can I get your phone for 2 minutes? Because I'm trying to text a girl and see if she replied, and it's been weeks or whatever, and nothing might have been going on for me at the time. But what you found is that in Kenya particularly, the West had seen the email address as the social network. So this is why even Facebook, which started in 2004 and has over 17 million Kenyans today, it started exclusively on email. And then you come to today, or modern times, where it became that, at least in Kenya and Africa, the SIM card was the social network. So if you recall, if you had the misfortune of being robbed at some point, here, some of them had the presence of mind to say, let me give you your SIM card back. And that's because it literally, that little card had coded in the names of mom, dad, everyone else. And those are the days when people had to remember literally 5 to 7 to 8 to 9 phone numbers, which was my surprise, just now. But yeah, that's us. I think just looking to how there's been the evolution of the internet to where when you see something like WhatsApp or, you name the social network now, a lot of it has built and taken a more African or even a more Kenyan shape over time, and that's been really exciting to watch over the years.
Looking at what's been happening in the country, so we know for a while that Kenyans who've gotten onto social media have had various things. It's community, it's places where people just come out. It's become the mongedo. You go onto social media, and what you're doing is you start having conversations, various banter. It's banter, Kenyans versus Nigerians, or Kenyans versus CNN, or Kenyans amongst themselves. And it's just that banter. And then at some point, Kenyans start just making noise about what they're seeing and it's not working. And they were called keyboard warriors. So you get onto there and you're just ranting and doing nothing. And for a while, they were just dismissed as keyboard warriors. All you do is complain on social media. And when you're called to come out on the streets to join us in protest, people who are organizing protests, like Kina Boniface Mwangi and all, would come out, and the guys who are engaging with them on social media are not joining them on the streets. And they would still reach out to him on social media with their complaints. He became the people's watchman because they're raising issues. But he's like, all right, I'm going to sort out this issue. But people, do something. Then suddenly, earlier in the year, there's a young girl who is murdered and decapitated, and there's a protest that's organized, and people come out in their numbers on a Saturday at Jivanji and they fill out the streets of Nairobi. And we hosted the organizers of that and we're like, tell us, how did it happen? They just raised issues on social media and they said, how about we just come out with numbers and say, no, we are saying no to femicide. And we asked ourselves, so what's the future of this? I mean, this, it mobilized, it was a cause, it was a reason. So they've come out once, they're going to come out again. So what? And then reject finance bill starts. Take us through that. What you saw at Nendo, because I'm sure you were monitoring.
Yeah, exactly. And even just to zoom out a bit, I think this is just going to show you how the more things change, the more they stay the same. Let me take you to 2011. 2011, on the 28th of February, or just leading up to that time, was going to be several years following the signing of the peace accord at the time. And a hashtag called Kenya Feb 28th comes out. And the mandate was very simple. Wherever you are at 1 p.m. on the 28th of February, we want you to stop and we want someone around you to start singing the national anthem. And this was just on Twitter, but it happened. And people started to see, wait, this just went from a hashtag and a call to action to where people in public places, downtown, CBD, you name it, but Matatu stages elsewhere, and people recorded it, very grainy video. But that's just showing how far back this question goes. Obviously, we've seen now that some clubs, establishments, whatever, at midnight are playing the anthem or other things too. 2012, 3,000 medics are negotiating with the government. The then health minister says that they are crying for sweets. Peremende, he says, that asks them. They go out and a press conference is held that day and they start something called the Peremende movement.
The doctors.
So, correct. And so now Kenyans online come behind them. And obviously we're seeing parallels now with Occupy, MOH, the doctor strike, and so on. And then you go to 2015 when you look for the phrase Occupy, because the three words of the current protests are reject, Occupy, free, and there's a few others.
All right.
And Occupy Playground, which is what you reference, right, is when Boniface Mwangi and other activists show up at the primary school on Langata Road, and the rest is history. And so I think if you just look, and there are these moments which are validating to Kenyans online that this is having an impact. I mean, even the Beyond Zero Marathon, right, from the former First Lady, if you look at the reason why it stopped, social media uproar. Those are the actual quotes. I was on one of the various websites. So this has been something where there's been a groundswell. But like you said, even from us with the data we saw off of the End Femicide movement, and that's one of the few times we can say where on Twitter, there's been more women speaking, at least about that issue. And even more recently, we've seen more women come back to Twitter because now known as X, it's not been a safe place for women historically. Very aggressive, a lot of sometimes attacks, abuse, or online violence. But from what we've seen, at least from the End Femicide KE conversation, that for us was a tipping point. So even in one of our reports, like you've said, we saw that as laying the foundation for everything we've seen now. And there was over, I think, 150,000 mentions, over 1 billion impressions online. This is End Femicide. And that now lays the groundwork.
What does that mean, 1 billion impressions?
Thank you. Good question. So it means that when you take, let's assume we each have 100 followers.
Okay.
Right? CT says something and we're all following each other. And I retweet it. I repost it or share it.
To your 100 followers.
Correct. Impressions is not how many people have seen it, how many humans have seen it. It's what they call the total opportunities to see. That's why it's a number so big and so elaborate, because it adds up all our numbers.
So CT's potential 100 people to see it, plus your potential 100.
Correct.
So the impressions there become 200.
Correct.
Okay. Does it include then the possibility of how CT's people could interact with Eric's people? Does it take that into consideration as well?
If Eric reshares.
Or if by virtue of the fact that you might be in the same spaces, that you would then meet each other?
Not necessarily. I think it's just a number to just talk about what's the full ceiling of potential people who might see this online, including old accounts, bots, spam, etc. So it tends to be not always the number to look for, but when you're looking at unique authors, which is something that we tracked as well, we saw about 28,000 unique authors, women. I think 17,000 men, and this was End Femicide.
Unique authors.
So, unique authors is interesting because there's something on the internet called the 99-1 rule. It says that I mean, even if you look at WhatsApp groups, right? You're not active in all of them. You go online, you're not as active. And so the majority of people are just lurkers. They actually are not keyboard warriors at all. They're keyboard observers.
They're called librarians.
Exactly. I like that. Librarians. Yes, there we go. And so because of that, they are the biggest contingent. Then you have a fraction who will like, share, subscribe. And then you have an even smaller one who will post and share. So if you say the four of us post, we're already in the extreme minority of people. Okay. So that's why unique authors matters, because how many people are everyone else resharing and observing?
Mm-hmm. Something else you said?
Yeah, I think now when you turn your eyes towards reject finance bill, Ruto must go, any of the other hashtags, Occupy Parliament, Occupy churches, it's been I think a very interesting groundswell. So for us, I think we've seen we did a report between the 12th of June and the end of June, and there were over 25 million tweets we saw on somewhere like TikTok, for instance, which I actually think, and we'd published this on Nendo's blog, we've been writing quite a lot, that's actually, for me, the game changer. It's not, and I have all the respect for X Spaces, I think it's actually, it's always had an outsized influence, but for me, the difference maker is TikTok. Not only because TikTok is significantly larger than X or Twitter, but because for Gen Z, the difference between them and everyone else is if you're on TikTok, you're used to looking at the camera and speaking. If you look at people's homes, offices, schools, they just take out a phone and they're speaking right to the camera. Some of us, the best we've done is point the camera at something. In fact, if you look at the protest, one of the most interesting things is it's not enough to be there. You need to have been recorded that you're there. And so you're handing your phone to somebody else saying, no, you have to get me. This is proof. I have to send social proof. Even if you look at the concert, when people are there with law enforcement, what are they doing? They're not just pointing the camera at them. They're walking up.
They're walking too.
And they're taking selfies, or most likely actually for TikTok videos, because they'll lay a soundtrack, etc. And TikTok has completely rewired everything we've known about YouTube, Instagram. In fact, for me, the rural and peri-urban part of TikTok, particularly vernacular, is the most underrated and sometimes the least understood.
So as we're looking at this is interesting because I think for folks who are not even in this universe, because one could even say it's an alternate universe where all kinds of things are happening. So for somebody who's on the periphery or even outside completely, the question for them is, how does somebody put something on X or on TikTok and in 30 seconds it is everywhere? Nobody had to put a billboard in the city to say there's going to be Occupy CBD on Tuesday. Nobody had to march through and do the vuvuzela or the megaphone, whatever, and announce that somebody put out a poster, somebody shared it, and then it went crazy. So for folks outside of this understanding, they're wondering, how do so many people get to know about this one thing so quickly and come out? How?
I think for me, it's a number of things. It's the perfect storm, I think, of things. But one of the biggest ones is just the concept of social proof. I'll wait until I see where you stand. And then I see on my WhatsApp status people talking about this. I see tweets. I see Facebook updates. In some cases, the thing with TikTok is that it's been designed to be the most spreadable. So even if you have you've never joined TikTok, it's in WhatsApp groups, it's on LinkedIn, it's on Insta, it's everywhere. And that's the idea. It's spread that way to sort of catch like wildfire. And so we've seen a number of, I'd say, both legacy activists and professionals, from IT professionals who've said, I'm going to donate my time to help explain this. And so we're going to build a chatbot, a GPT. That's going to help you interact with the bill, not a 42-page PDF. You're going to see certain people who, again, like when I go to now TikTok, you're just looking at essentially a bedroom, balcony, office, you name it, classroom, and they're looking at the camera and they're saying, this is how I feel about this way I feel about the state of the country, the economy. And a few of those videos, honestly, for me, it's unspeakable. I was sharing this data, and every time I say it, I can't believe my ears, that there's been over 1 billion views, 1 billion views between the 12th of June and today, when you look at reject the finance bill and its various phrases, and Ruto must go as well. And it's crazy to my mind, because there's not many other places you'd ever hear of that. But you go back to Twitter, one of the biggest ways people are just expressing their protest is just sharing. I might never leave my office job, but I see something by you, and I've been so surprised. I'm seeing 1,000 retweets in 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. It's even during elections, it's not something we've seen. So I think, to your point, there's different levels of participation, and one of the biggest ones is people are saying, I'm going to make my stand clear, recognize and appreciate those content creators. And then what happened was, after the first day, the very, very first set of protests, when people saw it on the news, so that people really showed up and saw people actually taking those videos, they said, I can't miss out on this moment. I have to be there. So I record it too, either through what I'll type, but most likely the videos. And it's been a ball of sort of a snowball effect, where the social proof adds pressure and validates that we should do it, even with what we saw with the taxi companies yesterday.
So is it about people feeling FOMO and not wanting to be left out and so joining a movement? Or is it a response to something? Because if you look at the previous examples you've given, right, the end femicide was a reaction to something and a very emotive issue, particularly for the very many women who were mobilizing. Girls, young girls are being killed, and you can't explain the reason why. Is it hate? Is it a gender violence? Is it what's and so people are reacting to this and coming out to express and say, no, this has got to stop. If you look a couple of years back, there was the My Dress, My Choice campaign. A woman is stripped, and then others react to this and they say, no. And they go mobilize and they come out and say, my dress, my choice. So there's that sort of rebellion to something that they feel that they are being under attack. Even the doctors, if you look at the Peremende movement, they are responding to the CS and the minister has come out and, basically just reduced their concerns to Peremende. So you're reacting to it. This time, what were people pushing back on, or was it different?
I think it was the finance bill and really the state of the economy, because you have young people now who are underemployed, unemployed. In fact, there's been some interesting studies recently, and I think you had one of the guests here from Odipo Dev about how, Gen Z, as people 28, I always have to say the age, because obviously Gen Z now is an ideal and is a state of mind. It's far bigger than an age group. Actually, maybe it's a pet peeve. I don't like when we say Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, etc. I think what's more helpful, and I'm going to leave this point, is to look at which president someone came of age under. That's more helpful in the Kenyan context, because certain things were happening with media and freedom and expression and authority and technology, as opposed to just the US-based, I'm a boomer, I'm a Gen X, I'm this.
And coming of age is at what age exactly?
I mean, again, I'm no expert here. But I would say towards your teen years, when you're understanding authority, sort of going through your pubescent or puberty years. That would be my take. Is that
so? Now we say like the Uhuru generation, the Kibaki generation.
Yes, please.
The Moi generation.
That's correct. And obviously, we know that President Moi's reign was one of the longer ones. So
the Sam Malcolm X generation. What was his name? Malcolm who?
X.
No, that guy, the governor. Let's take a break. It's 27 minutes to 9. Our guest this morning is Mark Kaigo. Mark is the founder and CEO of Nendo, and this is a company that does a lot of research and marketing, and he's here to break it down to us. Nendo have been looking at numbers and what's happening in the social space. We're saying moving from social media to social change and how this generation has done it. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Business news with SpiceFM.
This is the business news brought to you by Stanbic Bank. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Kenya has recorded a spike in the uptake of office space, surpassing the continent's average, according to global property consultant Knight Frank. This has seen property owners with old buildings forced to undertake major renovations in an effort to remain competitive and keep up with the changing market demands. The consultancy firm, in its biennial 2024-2025 Africa report, says office occupancy levels in the country rose to 77%, slightly above Africa's average of 75%. Across the continent, office markets have recovered from 60% that was recorded in 2022, largely attributed to the gradual return to the office following the disruption caused by the pandemic. The Kericho High Court has suspended the swearing-in ceremony of John Chebochok as the newly appointed director of Toror Tea Factory, pending hearing and determination of the petition filed against him. The court directed all the petitioners and other interested parties in the case to serve and file their written submissions within 3 days ahead of its ruling next month. Chebochok's swearing-in ceremony was scheduled to take place during the factory AGM on Thursday. Early this month, various multinational companies, including Lipton Tea and Infusions Company, announced that they would no longer purchase tea from the Toror Tea Factory following Chebochok's appointment. That's the Business Wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
How do I improve my credit score? For repeat borrowers, 1. Repay all loans, credit cards and mobile short-term loans in good time with discipline. 2. Deal any old accounts, keep them open and active. If not required, then have them closed by the bank. 3. Consider consolidating your debt facilities. 4. Get a handle on bill payments. For first-time borrowers, do not shy away from borrowing with the bank and repaying in good time to build a good credit score. Financial tips brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Spice FM Business. The weather with Spice FM.
Nairobi this morning, cloudy conditions. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 14 today. And we're looking into a cloudy in Nakuru at 17 with highs of 24. 21 will be the high in a cloudy Nyeri at 16. 16 and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 22. It's partly sunny at 24 in Mombasa with highs of 30, and we'll see cloudy conditions in Malindi going to highs of 29 and lows of 25. Kisumu is sunny at 23 with highs of 28, and at 19 Kakamega is sunny with highs of 27. We'll see lows of 17. Kampala is sunny at 20 with highs of 29, 24 and sunny at in Dar es Salaam going to highs of 30. It is cloudy after a bit of a sprinkle in Mogadishu. Rain will continue, highs of 29 and lows of 25. At 14, Addis Ababa is cloudy, highs of 19, and at 7 degrees, Johannesburg is sunny with highs of 20. Lagos is clear at 25, going to highs of 30, and at 21 is cloudy in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 30. So we've not had a problem with traffic this morning. Kangunda Road tried a little bit, but said, nah, not even today. Not even for Kangunda Road or the Thika Superhighway. We're not seeing much traffic in the city today. All to be explained and understood, of course, with the likes of protests going to the city today. So be careful whichever way. Yeah, so if you're coming off of Mombasa Road, let's look at that all the way through, coming in from Mlolongo out towards Cabanas and then through Nyeri Stadium Junction through towards Haile Selassie. We're not having anything here today. So it looks like it's going to be easy streets. We'll talk all the same. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right, 21 minutes to 9. Our guest, Mark Kaigwa, is still here.
So here we are. And essentially, we're saying that with the progression of technology, that when it was just what people thought social media was, you know, fun time, take pictures, talk about vacation and what you're eating and this, that, the other thing, that we've taken it to a point whereby we've actually used it to a point whereby you can talk on matters governance, you can talk about shifting attitudes and behavior. And we're saying that that's still not even scratching the surface of what this technology or this new space can actually do. So far cry from what it was in the very beginning. What would we say would, from your point of view, when you look at data and its collection and its information and what it shares, what could actually help towards solutions, right? Because we know how people are engaged. Could the folks who are being asked something of, the folks who are being engaged at that level, use this same data and information to make change on their side?
I think so. I think for me, one of the opportunities right now is to reconsider, as hard as this is, it's easy for me to say, but government as usual, especially when it comes to communications. I think something that my team and I have tracked over successive administrations is this idea that there was a mindset that Facebook and Twitter and any of these online platforms, up until TikTok, which was the most different, were just essentially pictorials. I was here. I met so and so. And that is basically what they reduced it to, essentially almost like a magazine that just has an infinite amount of pages, as opposed to the social part of social media, which is discussion, debate, public participation. We have seen a couple sitting governors go live, say on TikTok, and start to take questions. And in a way, almost you see somebody say, give me a minute, or, see so and so, I know you're watching, and pass that through. And that for me is rewiring the expectation. This is a year ago, so this is not even with the groundswell of what's happening now. So I think that government as usual question is one. Two is the public participation question. I think we saw it with even the way that people are making it dead simple to participate. They're saying, look, you don't have to leave your seat. I'll write you the email. I'll get you the email address. I'll explain exactly what you need to do. All you need to do is hit send. Or I'll give you the date and the time. And if you show up there, whether you're a lawyer or just a person of good faith. And so people have basically eliminated some of the obstacles to whether virtually you want to participate or contribute or give, you can do that. But now for the government side, for elected representatives, they also have to unlearn at this time and say, I'm going to discuss with my constituents, even those who aren't my constituents, because clearly my phone number is out there now, and I'm probably being greeted in Salimiwad now and again, depending on how I vote and how I act.
Yeah.
When you look at the extremities that have appeared with the greetings, as we call it, yes, it's abhorrent. It's not something that one would wish on even one's worst enemy. But there is a flip side to it. It is an expression of what people have felt, or what people have endured, or what they've experienced negatively over a period of time. The times in which we live in, this communication age, has afforded people the ability to express yourself in ways that previously they could not. And remember, up until just last month, many of the individuals we speak of who are in authority or political positions were, or they themselves consider themselves, untouchable. Now, the communication has been, you are actually touchable. In case you didn't understand, let us make you understand that you are touchable. We not only have your number, we have you profiled. Now, we were talking the other day about the issues of a new cabinet and the vetting. We want to see how this is going to take place, because one, the generation that you belong to and your understanding of the tools that are available to you for education and other purposes, mischief and all, can provide an avenue for anybody who is elected, selected by those in power to be vetted in a manner that people have never been vetted before in the country. So that a name is mentioned, say, okay, this is the person, okay? Says he has one wife, it's 5. Okay? He says he has served in this thing. Actually, there is a problem with this person that was never resolved. When he was headmaster of this school, for some strange reason, but he came there when there were 10 cows, and when he left, there were only 2. It's something that is still being worked into. Meaning, there are going to be outcomes to this that nobody had foreseen. But the thing that will be underlying this is accountability. But then my question, who then do this group of people that we loosely refer to as Gen Zs, who holds them to account?
That's a great question. I think there's no easy answer, because I would say that because, as it's been described, it is leaderless, partyless, tribeless, it still has the potential unless it organizes in a form. And I know people have rejected the concept of organizing or having some sort of structure, because that's, how leaders can be co-opted. Indeed, there is, so I don't deny that. But
there also is a leadership.
But it is fracturing in on itself, if you've noticed, with questions of, but did you get paid? And why did you participate in this way? And why wasn't I invited?
Mark,
yes.
We have a structured leadership. It's called the executive. We have a structured leadership called the legislature.
No, I'm saying of Gen Z.
Oh, no. I'm going there. I'm simply saying all leadership is fractured. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I see.
The dysfunctionality is not the system, it's the human beings and the way we go about our business. And for the Gen Zs, it's a learning opportunity.
It is.
They've never been here before.
True.
Okay? So they're here now. So these rumblings, this is the learning process taking place as we observe and as we watch. There'll be disagreements, there'll be fallouts, they'll be calling out, you are not our leader, go away first of all. Who elected you? Okay? All that will happen. It must happen because this is how people then find a stable working setup where they don't have to agree, but they can at least accept. But it must take place.
That's right. I mean, I think some people are taking the opportunity almost as there's a few broad things I think that are interesting to see. Is also this generational surprise, like you've said with kusalimiana, which, for listeners who might not be aware, is a sort of a phrase that means greetings. But what we're actually talking about, to be quite clear, is sometimes what's called doxing, which is I take your personal information, including your phone number, and I put it in a public place with potentially irate people and say, go greet this person. And those greetings, from what you've seen online, tend to be abusive, sometimes vulgar. In fact, what's curious is people are surprised just how upset or just how vulgar and the type of colorful language there is on X Spaces and all sorts of online meeting fora, because I think when we just look at how liberal this particular online generation is, it's fascinating. In 2019, there's a sort of a one-page guide where Nendo published and said, look, these are if you give a Kenyan 100 megabytes or 100 gigabytes, now when you zoom out, not because I might say things and you'll say, I don't do that at all. It's now when we look at us in aggregate, you see that there's a liberalism that's there from actually even right now when you look at the topmost search things of the last few weeks since this Reject Finance Bill conversation started, sports betting continues to dominate. So what that says is that as much as everything else is happening, Kenyans, correct, and there's a questions of instant gratification, of risk and reward, of sadly even this idea of people seeing that is their potentially their ticket, out economically, which is quite problematic when you think of online, gambling in that way. But there's also the Euros. But I think the second thing was, I think on social media, is these views that when I watch these online shows, etc., I hear very colorful language, I will express it even when greeting others, even when checking my fellow colleagues. And so the language, even of various activists and prominent people, no one has been afraid to talk in language that would not be appropriate on this microphone or any sort of public fora. But it's come to define the exhaustion, the angst, the anger, I think the feeling and the mood. But there's no leader, you're right, and people continue to touch the extremes.
It's all about cultures, because I grew up in a culture at the coast where people with a normal greeting among friends would be an insult. No, sincerely. Someone greets you in a way that if you're not familiar with that way of greeting, you wonder, why is this person insulting me? And they're actually greeting you, and they're very happy to see you. Yes. So there are words they would use that ordinarily you would cringe. It is so normal, you actually get shocked. But in this instant, coming from the background that many Kenyans come from, there are words that are not supposed to be uttered in public. Okay? They are considered disrespectful. Okay? However, let me just say, sometimes maybe with generationally, the words are not meant to be disrespectful because that's how they communicate every day. But to an older person, it will be disrespectful. But then when you throw in just the utter angst that seems to have built up over time, I would say it is a safe outlet for people to actually express it. It is a better outlet because there are other avenues that people can express the angst which are far, far, far more destructive.
True.
And one should take note, because if it's on the increase, all it tells you is that people who ordinarily did not feel safe to express what they feel now feel they can. So you get to hear more and more and more of it. It will reach a plateau. It will. But for now, as people realize that it is possible for you to express yourself, they will express themselves.
It will rise.
It will rise. Yes.
Where is the negative threat to this? Okay. Let's give it the angle of Cambridge Analytica and such, where these social media places are then used to fuel a certain feeling and a certain mood to drive a certain agenda. So is it possible, and how would you be able to pick out, for example, if some of these hashtags and keywords are being amplified specifically to a certain direction, certain conversations are being amplified more than others, so that you get the public into a certain mood and then driving them into a certain direction? That fear has been expressed. Is it a possibility? Is it a possibility that, you know what, when people are just getting online there and they're engaging and they're participating and they're, going into the form one, they're saying this is the language you're using now and they're picking up the language, they're actually being manipulated?
No, I mean, you raise probably one of the single greatest threats of the time right now. And I think even for the team and at Nendo, we're doing a webinar tomorrow at 4 just on Zoom, just to try to unpack both, there's gains made, there's threats that are still there. When you think of the unseen hand behind a lot of this, it is what I'd call the algorithms, right? Which are these phrases used to say, if the four of us each search for a particular phrase right now, we might each see, even on Twitter, for example, different results because they're tailored around us. And so there's almost like an arbiter there who's deciding, and what do I want you to see, and is this going to get you riled up? Sadly, many of these organizations, they thrive, and their profit motive is, am I going to show you enough for you to keep in that trance or days of scrolling? And in some cases, that's me working you up. That's me getting you upset. That's me, sort of getting you, just
riling you up.
Exactly. And so that for me continues to be a threat. But on the other hand, there's also the question of censorship, or what some people are calling shadow banning, which says that, this hashtag should be trending and it's been removed or withdrawn. So I'd say right now, in terms of other actors, we have seen that in the past. I think during the 2017 general election, Nendo was doing the similar type of social media listening and tracking. And there were attack ads, right, that were there on YouTube, targeted at different people with different inclinations or views of candidates. So there's a whole library and quite a lot published about this. So that's when now it emerged, for example, that Cambridge Analytica and other, firms were here. And those attack ads are US sort of style, which are very aggressive, very intense, really playing to your fears or just your own psyche in many ways in terms of its manipulation. So that threat is there. I think, as CT said, some of these extremities, there are some checks and balances. So, for example, when people see you've had this hard line and you're softening, ever since this moment, we're beginning to doubt you and look for a new voice to engage with. So I feel like it's somewhat self-correcting in that there's almost a hyper-vigilance because there's no leader. So people are setting some sort of imaginary margins and saying, if you cross this, we might write you off, but there's still the vulnerability someone would take over and carry it.
That margin that's being set is on a certain direction. Is if you are radical, you're welcome here. If you become less radical, we kick you out of here. So there's just continuous radicalization, like, you are expected.
It's feeding into itself.
Yeah.
But radicalism to what end?
And that's the thing.
That was very hard to say, I think, because we don't have an end in sight. The question is, there was videos yesterday saying...
You must have an end in sight.
But somebody said yesterday, don't go to the streets today because look at all the gains that have been made. And yet others now are like, no. Some people actually in the comments were saying, no, look, you're a sellout. And some people are like, okay, he has a point. But because we've cast some aspersions on you, we're going to continue this, even though, like you're saying, the question is to what end? And at this point, it's not clear.
Actually, sometimes you act your way into reason, not reason your way into action. The process that we're seeing are bring out outcomes that probably even the protesters had not figured out. But here they are.
Right.
Now, where I would say the protests and the continuance has value, if you have the sort of impunity that we've seen in our political leadership and how entrenched it has been, that thing is not going to go away because of 2 protests. It will not. Because even as there is, and this is how they consider a threat to their existence, they will regroup and they will reinvent themselves. They'll speak the language that they think is acceptable, because I'm seeing politicians falling over themselves to side with the Gen Zs. Literally. Literally. It's a good political move. But the point is this. Right now, at this moment in time, when it is clear that we are beginning to see changes that people have hankered for and have asked for the longest possible time, are we saying that it will go uncheckered? No, it will be checkered. It will be checked. It will be interfered with. And even now, as you tell us what you're saying, I dare say that to me sounds like a form of interference. Because, yes, it is. Running interference doesn't necessarily mean that somebody disagrees with you. They agree with you, but they gently take you onto a different path. Somebody brings in a new idea. So there'll be so many ideas that even the purpose for which you started the entire process, somewhere along the line gets lost.
That's correct.
You've been checkered completely. So it will happen. The state doesn't sit back and watch what it has built and what it has enjoyed simply taken away. They don't sit back.
Yeah, because it's power play. It's the constitution was that one. It was saying sovereignty belongs to the people, and the people shall decide how they are governed, and the people shall own the government. And the government can just sit back and say,
the people what own what? Wait a moment. You mean we won't be able to tell these people what to do and how to do it? And then they can even question the way we steal from them. No, this one, no, we can't allow this.
So, Mark, how can then this turn into positive going into the future? Like you said, there's increased public participation, civic education and awareness. How can all these then come together from the various quarters? Maybe developers coming up with ways, like you said, ChatGPT that does this. What City was saying, how do we start vetting people online? How do we get this information without necessarily infringing on people's privacies? How can this be used for good? Like you said, it's social media to social change for social good.
That's right.
How can we get into the social good part?
I think that's happening now. I think the number of people who've turned their attention, and for example, I'll say this not with any, just speaking plainly from the data, there are people who have lived in let me call it a glass ceiling online, or somewhat of relative obscurity, right? I come my post, but I've never been able to really grow. And in this moment, because of their profession, because of their background, they have become a voice. And they've realized part of what made me become this voice was being an activist, giving of my time and my talents towards this. So you now have people acting as sort of an online auditor general. And I'm surprised, where they're even looking up people who voted a particular way they agreed with just 2 weeks ago. And now they're going saying, let me look at your whole record. Let me look at your development agenda and what you did. And coming back to just frame it that way with checks and balances. Regardless of how I think things settle, I don't think that's going away. People are talking about recalling members of parliament. Right, I think that starts some checks and balances on performance and results. So these, I don't think you can squeeze the toothpaste back in the tube, even if you set up a very strong, contingent that is, say, pro-government. This part is literally rewarding people with likes and shares. And you have to understand, this is rewiring neural pathways of people where they're like, I love what I'm seeing for myself. And I might be able to flip this and become famous or infamous, right? Some people are loving the infamy on its own, where they're saying, I will be the voice that you don't like, but what you don't know is when you express your disdain and disagreement, I actually feed off that.
Me.
Yeah, it works for me and spreads my message. So the good thing is, I think we've seen civic engagement at all-time highs, and we'll see if it translates offline, which it already has.
Mark Kaigwa, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing all that information. We'll invite you again for when you have a bit more.
Yeah.
Mark Kaigwa is the founder and CEO of Nendo. He's been here. We've been talking about how social media has been used for social change. And you're asking, is it going to lead into social good into the future? Keep it here for more and more of that. Remember, www.jubileeinsurance.com if you want to get the best health insurance that suits you, That's where to go. Start there. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamera. President William Ruto has accused the Ford Foundation of financing anti-government protests in Kenya. Speaking in Nakuru County, Ruto alleged that the American NGO has been channeling funds to unidentified groups to organize protests and create instability in the country.
And I want to call out those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya. Shame on them, because they are sponsoring violence against our democratic nation. Mimi nataka niulize watu wa Ford Foundation watuambie hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani? We are going to call them out and we are going to tell them if they are not interested in democracy in Kenya, if they are going to sponsor violence, if they are going to sponsor anarchy, we are going to call them out and we are going to tell them they either style up or they leave.
Meanwhile, Gen Zs are to hold another round of protests today to pile pressure on the government to take accountability for the lives lost during previous protests sparked by the now withdrawn Finance Bill 2024. Activist Boniface Mwangi has confirmed that the protests will go down as planned until the government takes some form of responsibility for the deceased protesters. The government maintains that 25 protesters died during the protests, but rights groups put the death toll at 41 and 360 injuries. In Turkana County, young people announced on Monday that they'll march to the county government offices to demand transparency in the provision of employment opportunities in the devolved unit.
We already have an intel that kuna watu wanatoka kesho Eldoret wanaletwa ku counter demo the demonstration ya kesho yetu. We are aware that they are going to kuchoma ofisi ya governor, kuchoma ofisi ya MP.
Hatutaki mtu atusimamie sisi siku zote. Hivyo sisi wenyewe tunajisimamia, lakini sasa hivi kama wanasiasa wameweka siasa, imekuwa ni mambo ya siasa.
Constitutionally tuko na ile right ya kuongea. So kindly let's turn out tomorrow and the governor should expect us. Kwanza sana ni yeye ndio tunamtaka kwa sababu the moment tunatuma MCs wetu they are not doing it. Tukituma MP wetu he's not doing it. Unaona? Sisi wenyewe tumeamua tukuje tumtafute. We'll need him tomorrow akuwe available kwa ofisi yake so that sisi wenyewe tukae chini tumwambie.
This even comes as former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga warned Gen Zs of forces out to water down their resolve to demand better governance. Mutunga said the Gen Zs have started a revolutionary mass movement that is likely to face various challenges if it aligns itself with any faction of the ruling class. In a post on his X page, Mutunga also urged the young people to think about the protection of those he alleged may be targeted and demand justice for those killed during the protests. In Kisumu, young lawyers have opted to help educate Gen Zs on the pros and cons of demonstrations. Trevor Omondi, a member of the Kisumu Young Bar, says the lakeside city has borne the brand of demonstrations. Omondi says the demonstrations should not be misconstrued to be a revolution, noting that they've been hijacked by goons. He's called upon protesters to ensure that they at all times exercise and enjoy their right within the limits of the law. Movement for Democracy and Growth Party leader David Ocheng has urged the government to pay a 1 billion shillings debt to the Kenya Seed Company. Speaking in the Lesos area in Kitale, Trans Nzoia County, Ocheng said agriculture is the backbone of Kenya's economy, adding that food security can only be achieved if the government invests 10% of its budget in the sector, in line with the annual Maputo resolutions of 2003.
Serikali imenyima Kenya Seed pesa, that's why you're not getting enough seed. Serikali iko deni ya Kenya Seed almost 1 billion. Na tuna expect kwamba Kenya Seed itoe mbegu ya kutosha nchi mzima. Haitawezekana. Investing in agriculture is not an option. Investing in farm infrastructure is not an option. Investing in our farmers is not an option. It's a must.
President Joe Biden has defended his rhetoric against Donald Trump and cited why it was important in his first interview since the attempt on his political rival's life. Biden said his campaign had a duty to clearly communicate the threat of a second Trump term, adding that his words were not the ones that needed to be tempered. However, he said it had been a mistake to have said that it was time to put Trump in a bull's eye during a private donor call days before the assassination attempt on Trump at a Saturday's rally in Pennsylvania. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Not much of that this morning. I think we're seeing easy streets all the way into the city, coming off the thicker superhighway as well as on Juja Road. Not going to have a problem here. Also coming off of Ngong Road, we're doing fine. Waiakio is also breathing life, as it were. No traffic crossing over to the Red Hill Link Road. And that's all coming in from James Gishuru, so we're not having a problem here whatsoever. And looks like it's going to be that way through today. We are still in what would be traffic hour, but no traffic today, so I don't think that's what we have to worry about. We'll just talk in case anything does pop off. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 9, conversations continue. This is the final hour of The Situation Room. Today, as we get there, let me just give you latest updates. So the people of Rwanda have gone into a democratic election. You know, they practice democracy in Rwanda, and they vote in Rwanda, within the Rwanda community in Kenya, and the Rwanda community in Rwanda, and also in the Rwanda community elsewhere in the diaspora. So, for example, community abroad, right? A community abroad. As of half an hour ago, President Kagame had secured 95% of the votes in the diaspora, 38,000. The second highest person was Habineza Frank, 874 votes.
Not bad.
Bayamana, 998 votes.
998, okay.
2.45%. That's the second highest, rather. And of course, Paul Kagame, 38,803 votes. Okay? And according to the New Times of Rwanda, this is the publication in Rwanda, as of 37 minutes ago, incumbent President Kagame is on track for a landslide victory in Rwanda's presidential election after picking up 99.15% of the more than 7 million votes counted so far.
So in short, he has won.
Yeah?
Abi?
No, he's on track.
Oh, he's on track to win with 99%.
Yeah, he's on track to winning. So far. Anything could happen.
Anything could change.
And it could be 98%.
Oh, or even...
Remember the 2007 headline? Raila takes an early lead.
So how would you describe this lead? How would you describe this lead that Kagame has?
No.
The biggest threat is not him getting 98%, it's him getting 101%.
Oh, that would be an issue, Abi.
That would be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
99.15.
By the way, in this case, you wouldn't say President Paul Kagame takes an early lead. It would be maintains.
Continues to lead.
Yes.
Okay, we had Mark Kaigwa, now we have Mark Bichachi. communications expert who's joining us. Mark, good morning.
Good morning.
How have you been?
Missed you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been 3 years in 1 month.
Probably it has, Yeah? As in, there's so much that has happened in your life in the last 1 month that you feel every time you come here, blessings galore. This guy gets out of here. He's just
let me tell you,
refill.
I have traveler's luck. Whenever I travel, good things happen. The last time I traveled, 2 days later, Kenya decided to have a renaissance, decided to wake up from the shadows and ask for accountability. I should travel more.
Who knows what will happen when you travel?
When I travel
come back.
This man is inviting us to join him in the realms of superstition.
Good thing, City, is that this man is a frequent traveler.
Yes, he is.
Jubilee Insurance has a product for you as a frequent traveler. Jubilee Health.
Okay.
You get this one package that sorts you out wherever you are, outside of the country, even inside of the country. There is air evacuation back into the country. You get 24-hour access to their support. And they work with a global insurance provider, Allianz. So you take up this Jubilee package. At how many millions?
4.5 million.
US dollars.
Yes.
USD.
Yes.
Up to 4.5
million USD.
Okay, and how much does it cost per year?
For a traveler, it's something that you can work.
It doesn't matter.
And it's not as much as you think. You're waiting for me to mention a figure, aren't you?
No, I am waiting for you to give me confidence.
I'm afraid that one.
You've given me confidence. I've received Jubilee Insurance for frequent travelers.
Oh, yes.
Jubilee, you're getting a call after this.
Very good. Give him the number, City.
0709 949 000.
949 000.
Yes.
Well understood.
Yeah. And you can go to their website as well, jubileeinsurance.com. It's that simple. The proverb. Have you been to Cape Verde?
No.
In your frequent travels?
No.
But you know where it is? On the map?
If I
is it here or
my
here?
Geography, Cape Verde must be on the other side.
So on this side?
West.
Okay.
West.
Wapi hapo karibu?
Towards Ghana, Senegal sides, I think, or somewhere under there. Yeah,
somewhere under there.
Mali hapo, a dot somewhere.
Well, actually, yes, it's a big dot, though. Yes. Yes, an interesting country, and a beautiful country. The bat, B-A-T, hangs upside down because of the words told to it by the sun. The bat hangs upside down.
You know the animal, the mammal, the bat?
Yeah.
What's it called in Swahili?
No idea.
Same.
Popo.
Oh, yeah, true.
Popo. As in P-O-P-O.
P-O-P-O.
Popo.
So that thing hangs upside down
because of the words told to it by the sun. The sun.
S-O-N.
S-U-N has told it. Are you also a frequent flyer? But there's a frequent flyer thing going on here.
They're them and the bats.
You use not frequent flyer, you use frequent traveler. Yes.
So, the bat hangs upside down
because of the words told to
it by the Jua.
Yes.
Is that your explanation of bottom-up economics?
Well, the tradition in this studio dictates that you give us your interpretation of it and not to ask us those questions you're asking us.
But that's why I have no interpretation for that particular proverb. Because how does the sun affect a popo hanging upside down?
Yes, it does.
Unless it's afraid.
How does a bat sleep?
Upside down.
Upside down.
Precisely. In the daytime, is that not so?
Yes.
What happens at night?
It flies around and collects bugs and fruits depending on the species.
So the sun dictates when it's going to hang upside down.
But
by virtue of the fact that it sleeps at
the sun spoke to it.
By virtue of the fact that the sun is up, that's communication. So the bat knows it's time to get upside down and go to sleep.
Okay. You're giving forced vibes. Imekata. Because the bat never interacts with the sun.
Oh, hang on. Do you interact with the sun? How do you know it's time to wake up and go to bed?
A circadic rhythm. It's called what?
See, that's the rhythm. You tell us what it is.
But the sun has nothing to do with it.
It can be whatever you want.
No, but okay. So let's look at the northern countries, right? The sun never comes out for 6 months.
This would only be Mark Bichache who has to complicate this thing. Look. Night and day, bats sleep in Cape Verde.
Okay.
The bats sleep during the day because the sun has come up.
Sun. Because there are no
At
bats.
night they fly, there's no sun.
So there are no bats in Norway during winter.
Oh, Lord in heaven.
I'm just asking.
There's a valid question.
Watu wa Cabo Verde ndo wamesema, don't bring complications.
Watu wa Cape Verde unajua, the sun has spoken to
the bat.
The bat.
Okay.
And the bat does what?
Listens.
Hangs
upside down.
Yep.
Okay.
Now that.
I am well appraised.
Okay. Now with that, what do you think they're telling us?
The Norwegians don't have bats.
Still haven't. You are not escaping. What do you think the inner meaning for this would be?
The best guess, because this is a guess, is that we all have to obey nature. Right? When nature calls, we have to obey. That's the best I can get to.
All right. Yes.
And I'm using significant brain power to try.
And just to answer your question, there are 11 varieties of bats in Norway. Okay? Just so that you know.
Yeah, that's a point. They still sleep upside down and there's no sun for 6 months.
Okay.
So there's light?
No. There's human light, but they stay in darkness for months.
You know me, I've not been to Norway.
So we're to find you city, tuendelee.
Yeah, because this darkness forever for 6 months. This is new to me. Okay.
Your interpretation actually sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, we even agree with you.
Thank
and
you.
In fact, the bats in Norway probably don't even sleep upside down. Just so that we finish this thing, tuendelee.
Where else can I have so much fun? So where else on earth?
Mark, while you are away,
yes,
like you said, something's happened in Kenya.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you said that, you know what, those are reawakening.
Renaissance.
Abu, tell us.
You know, I have been thinking hard about the nearly every 10-year revolutions we have in this country. Since nearly every 10 years. So we start 91, 92. Actually, let's start 82, right? 91, 92.
Why don't you go earlier?
Huh?
Why are you starting with 82? Why don't you go a little earlier?
I'm speaking to millennials.
No, let's give them the full history.
Yeah. So 78, you go back to 68,
yes.
You go back to 63.
Yes.
Right? Each of those decades, or thereabout, Kenyans are either on the street, they're either picketing for something new.
Yes.
Every 10 years. And the question I ask myself is, if you look at the core issues that they are fighting for, they remain the same, but something always hijacks it. We get some placebo medicine, and then we go back to where we started. So, for example, 1992, we say we fought for multi-party democracy. But multi-party democracy was the route to a better society. That's what we were fighting for.
That was how it was sold.
Yes. We got multi-party. It didn't solve corruption, did not solve tribalism, and did not solve bad leadership. So 2002, we sang Yote Yawezekana bila Moi. By the time it was 2005, Anglo-leasing had happened, and Kenyans had given up on arresting cops who were taking bribes by 2005. By 2007, President Kibaki nearly lost office, and this country almost went to war. 3 years later, we voted in a new constitution in the hope that a constitution will give us a better society. So we write a very nice document with a very nice chapter 6, our society didn't change. 14 years later, we are back on the street asking for the same things our parents and grandparents asked for. The question we must ask ourselves is, what will it finally take for Kenya to stop aborting its revolutions? What will it take?
Why were the previous ones, in your opinion, aborted? Why?
Politicians. Every time Kenya wanted change, we entrusted change to politicians. Most of the time, we said we have multi-party, so let's vote in people, not maintain our clamor for a new society. 2002, Mwai Kibaki is my best example. Mwai Kibaki came into office when Kenyans hated corruption with a passion. Kenyans were willing to do citizen arrests before it was a thing. The moment Mwai Kibaki let them down through Anglo-leasing, that moment Kenyans gave up again. Biggest problem with all our revolutions is we give it to politicians to birth what we got pregnant with. And politicians always steal the baby.
But who are politicians?
Exactly. James Orengo was an activist. Martha Karua, activist. Kiretu Murungi, activist. Became politicians. Honestly, impact on this country, zero.
You mean, Buana? What is the impact? How are you measuring your impact?
What they set out to do in setting up a society that was not only cogent in its ideology, but also a society where corruption was shunned, where good leadership was the pillar of this country, we've not achieved that. If the dream of 1992 was achieved, Gen Z will not be on the streets today.
Why didn't you mention Raila in that list, by the way?
Same story. In fact, Raila Odinga, today as we speak, he tried to have a conversation with William Ruto. What did the young people say? Don't do what you usually do. Not because conversations are wrong, and I'm a big supporter of conversations, but because the young people are protecting the revolution they've started from politics. And I don't mean worldwide politics, I mean Kenyan politics. Because there's something that happens that what we want morally as a society, our aspirations as a people, whenever we go to the streets, whenever we demonstrate, whenever doctors go to the street, whatever happens, what people always want is better leadership, accountability, and the moral fiber of our country to change. Which is why churches are in trouble today. Right? But the moment we take this positive tension the people need to have with their government and their leadership, and then entrust that to the Kenyan political process, we are bought.
So, Mark, if you look at the examples that you've given in the run-up to this one, without this one, minus this one, is it the people popular ground-up uprising, or is it activists or some sort of leader then going to work with the ground and helping the ground to rise? And the people then saying, because, I mean, you have been our champion in this, we entrust you with the process to cross us over across the Jordan River into Canaan. With the difference here being, this time, there's not any individual that is in the forefront of this.
Yes.
So is that observation correct?
So, up to now, each time we've had some form of revolution, we've entrusted it to an individual.
At what point are we entrusting it to the individual?
Usually
at the launch of the revolution, or at the end?
Towards the end. Because any good politician will tell you, whenever the masses want something, you get ahead of them and claim it for yourself. That's generally how it works, right? What we've done as a country is when we entrust that change to an individual, we go back to our homes and trust that person to do. Yet we forget the genesis of everything we do is the people. Now, what do the people want and what have we wanted all these years? One, a better society. Do you know how I know that is true? The moment this protest started, have you seen any flashing light car overlapping? Was that one of the demands from the Gen Z?
Nope.
How did they know that they need to stop?
They knew.
It means
flashy opulence.
They also knew that what they were doing was wrong.
Exactly my point. Kenya needs to have and continue to have positive tension between the people and their government. By government, I don't mean executive, president. I don't mean parliament. I just don't mean judiciary, not even MCAs alone. There needs to be constant tension, positive tension. That tension can never be entrusted to an individual. Otherwise, we will abort it again. We need to keep, forget about the Gunzi hirelings. That KFC, Uber, smartphone needs to continue. Why? Because we need to entrench good manners in leadership and in society.
Are there examples anywhere that you could say that it was a people's movement and it remained a people's movement and it was not entrusted onto individuals?
Oh, that's simple. Let's talk about the country where it's called La Liberté, the French. The French had a revolution against the monarchy, then had Napoleon and all his games. Those people have maintained positive tension between them and their government every decade, almost every year to date.
Okay. From the moment they had that revolution and they overthrew the monarch and that system and they installed this other one, did it continue or was there a break?
So there were many breaks. That's why I mentioned Napoleon and his antics. However,
so immediately, they handed it over to individuals,
to a parliamentary system.
Yeah.
No, hear me well.
But there was a leadership in the parliamentary system. There was figurehead.
Yeah, I'm not saying there should not be a leadership. I'm saying that the people should never give up the demand for good manners from their leadership. So when the French put in people in power, they continued to hold them accountable.
Through and through.
Right? Now, if you look at Africa in general, you will not find many people who continue to hold their governments accountable after they come into power. So, for example, there's a saying in the south of Africa that they want to be liberated from their liberators. Okay? South Africa is a prime example. You've seen the move of people away from the ANC. Yet the ANC was there liberating people. Problem is that when the ANC came into power, especially after Mbeki and Mandela, the people abdicated much of the agitation that they had.
they trusted.
Exactly. So now, for us not to abort, we need to do
You'll
things.
tell us the two things. Okay. Let's take a break. 29 after 9. Mark Bichachi, communications expert, is our guest today. He is saying Kenya has had several aborted revolutions, and this one should not be like the others. Do you agree with him? Do you not? Let's see in the comments.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your business news with Spice FM.
This is the business news brought to you by Standard Bank. I'm Edwin Lisamera. The government is staring at a crisis in the pension industry in what observers say will likely shake the financial markets. Nearly a third of the government workforce is staring at retirement and eventual payment of their pensions. Last year, the Pensions Department at the National Treasury announced plans to process 85,400 claims over a period of 3 years. This means that Treasury will have to process an estimated 685 billion shillings in pension benefits over the period. Some 30,151 workers are expected to leave work by the end of June, with the number expected to fall to 28,745 next year, according to estimates by the National Treasury. Kenyan creatives are rapidly adopting artificial intelligence, or AI, to catalyze their creative process. That's according to research by Kenyan-based multidisciplinary arts organization Creatives Garage. Their research was part of Mozilla's Africa Mradi research series on the impact of AI on communities in Eastern and Southern Africa. In Kenya, the creative economy accounts for about 5.3% of the gross domestic product, and the tech sector contributes 7% to the country's GDP.
How do I improve my credit score? For repeat borrowers, 1. Repay all loans, credit cards and mobile short-term loans in good time with discipline. 2. Deal any old accounts. Keep them open and active. If not required, then have them closed by the bank. 3. Consider consolidating your debt facilities. 4. Get a handle on bill payments. For first-time borrowers, do not shy away from borrowing with the bank and repaying in good time to build a good credit score. Financial tips brought to you by Standard Bank.
Spice FM Business. The weather with Spice FM.
A cloudy morning in Nairobi at 16. We'll see highs of 21 and highs of 24 in a cloudy Nakuru at 18. It's 16 and cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 21, while Eldoret will go to highs of 22 and lows of 14. It's partly sunny at 25 in Mombasa with highs of 30, while we'll see highs of 29 in a cloudy Malindi at 27. Kisumu is cloudy at 24 with highs of 28, while Kakamega at 22 is cloudy going to highs of 27. Looking into a sunny Kampala, at 23, going to highs of 29, while Dar es Salaam at 25 is sunny, going to highs of 30 and lows of 23. Johannesburg sunny at 10 with highs of 20 and lows of 8, while Mogadishu cloudy at 27 will go to highs of 29, and at 14 Addis Ababa is cloudy with highs of 19 and lows of 13. We're looking into a cloudy Lagos, a hazy Lagos actually at 25 with highs of 30, while Kinshasa is cloudy at 22, it'll go to highs of 29. Let's round things off in Beijing, where at 31 we'll see highs of 32. Paris is 17 and cloudy, and London at 16 is partly sunny. New York 29 and clear, highs of 33 and lows of 27.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
So not having a traffic problem today at all, and it's actually flowing free most parts of the city this morning. I think we'll be able to get in and out without an issue. Just keeping a check on what happens through today on SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continue our conversation with communications expert Mark Bichachi about aborted revolutions. I think, Mark, before you tell us then what you think people should do to safeguard this revolution, I want to ask you actually, with the example that you've given just with France alone, and that the citizens keep coming back and pushing back, you could say it's the same case with Kenya.
Yes.
It's the same case. So Kenyan people are, they sort of give that to the political class, and then that political class lets them down, and they come back and they grab it and they say, no, we want it different. We want some difference. With increasing vigor over the years, in the initial stages, from Mau Mau into the Kenyatta government, there was, disquiet with what was happening with the JMs and all, and the people, and they were being suppressed, but it was still bubbling under. The More Kenya movement coming out into the 80s, with Moi leading into 88s, into 91, then again into 2000, into 2007, as you said, into the demand for the constitution, into 2010. It's been rising, but the people have not just gone back and slept. They always realize that.
Actually, they've gone back and slept.
Have they?
Yes, they have, because this trust deficit we keep speaking of arises because there was an abundance of it at some point. And that probably was our undoing. The faith that when these people were in positions of authority, they will do good by us. Okay? But this particular moment in time, we're seeing for the first time a structured accountability process has been set in motion, where you're being told, it starts with, we don't want this bill, okay? And somebody says, you vote. And we told you we didn't want it, you didn't listen. So this is what we're doing now. And it continues. Now, there are many things that people may find unsavory, but the point is, for the first time in the history of this country, the sovereign has understood that the accountability factor is not somebody you leave in someone's hands. You keep them in check consistently. So they understand this is what you're supposed to do. If you're not doing it, we're watching you. Yeah. And we want to see you doing what you said you would do. Now that, in my mind, is the fundamental change that we're seeing.
Exactly.
It's a beginning of it. I agree.
Yes.
I think it's what I kept saying. It keeps morphing. It morphed in the run-up to 2010. It morphed, and we said we don't trust individuals. We shall trust systems.
Yes.
And systems shall have counterbalances and checks, and those systems then will make sure that this thing is working. And so we put it in the systems, and the system again is hijacked by the individuals. And now people are like, all right, so even with the system, it's not. But do you see the people doing this thing that they're doing on a daily basis going forward into the next 20, 30 years? It'll have to come back into something.
That is what we have to fight for.
Okay. How?
We have to fight to continue fighting. And put it in perspective. Number one, President Ruto today has a blank slate. Today, he does not need to do regional balance. He does not say, oh, you're Mkamba, you're incompetent, but you're Mkamba, I'll put you in my cabinet. Now,
or if I remove you, I have to replace you with another
Mkamba. Right? Number two, he is free from political debt. Right? Today, he can chart a new vision for this country. But at the same time, he's got a population that has removed itself from the politics of the ballot to the politics of oversight. That 2010 Constitution, brilliant document. We wrote it down. We praised Chapter 6. My friend, I sang that song. Then we decide Chapter 6 is a self-declaration form. Are you a thief? Yes or no? Are you a liar? Yes or no? That's Chapter 6. Right? When we watered it down, it is not because the people did not want it. It's because the people stopped agitating. Okay? We've changed presidents. We've not changed the presidency and how it works. Our opportunity is to help President Ruto define what leadership and democracy is going to be, because he has started listening to the people. Biggest mistake we make is if we, the people, stop talking.
Or we trust that he has heard.
Exactly. Right? We have to assume, for the sake of our country, that this is not maandamano anymore. It should be our character moving forward. So that tomorrow, when there's a chair of a board who's caught in corruption, there's no church to go to, you kneel down to be prayed for. There's no village to go back to say our people are being attacked. And whoever is your boss, whether you are appointed by a CS or a president, they can fire you as quickly as the allegations come up because the Kenyan people are active. The force of the people should make it such that whichever president, MP, governor, MCA we have moving forward has to be accountable not just to the system but to our people who are awake and aware and will take their civic duty, take it up, not only to recall, that might be a long process, but to make your life very uncomfortable. And one of the things that we must codify today is you get a public job, you must have a public phone number, and Kenyans are allowed to say hi to you when you make mistakes. I don't mean with hands and fists, but talk to you. Now, let me give you another example. The United States, when Congress and Senate go on recess, they go back to their various districts and they have town halls. And they are talked to by people. School districts have meetings and people talk about the books in classes. They say, we don't like this book, right? Sometimes they go overboard and they say they don't want books with violence, they don't want books with certain content, and then they find
religious overtones.
Yes, then they find that thing they are banning is the Bible they're trying to defend because it has violence and other things. But that's a side story. But the continued participation of people beyond the election, in my view, is Ruto's best opportunity to be a watershed president. Because only Mwai Kibaki was given the opportunity to do right and start the country afresh. He's been given the same opportunity. We must make sure there's no Anglo-leasing. We must make sure there's a new vision, new direction, new accountability in this country. So we need to move this maandamano from Tuesday to Thursday to every day, everywhere, not Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, Gen Alpha. We need to make it constant. Otherwise, we will face another abortion.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you. So then what are the risks towards an abortion of this revolution? What are the risks that we see at this point? Because it seems like everybody's gung-ho at this point at saying, you know what, it's an opportunity to ensure that there's good governance. Yes. But that there's a risk to losing momentum. Is there a risk to apathy, lethargy? What?
That's exactly what the risk is. First and foremost, let's remember, we fired 20 people, 21, right? But there are 300 plus parliamentarians. 47 times 2 governors, because they have deputies. Over 3,000 MCAs. Over 600 parastatal heads. Bado mapambano. Because this change that we have embraced as a country, if we stop at cabinet, we've aborted. If we stop at parliament, we've aborted. If we stop at stopping overlapping, we've aborted. We must continue. Not Tuesday and Thursday, but Monday, Wednesday, every day. And not just at President Ruto, not at Rigathi Gachagua. They have an opportunity, honestly, to actually change this country. As long as they agree with the people.
That's true.
They have it. But if the people stop tagging that rope, what will 2 people do against 300 parliamentarians. Let's not forget, there's democracy, but there's the overwhelming power of stupid. There is the overwhelming power of stupid. Because in the middle of this revolution, someone can dare say that the biggest loss they had is to lose 10,000 followers on Instagram. So it's not just the fight against corruption. We must
fight against stupid.
Yes.
Mark, everything that you're saying is true. But then I think the reality of things is that right now there's a critical mass of people because of the event that is unfolding.
Yes.
Right? It's an event. But this critical mass is realistically unsustainable. And that's why in all these places you find that systems then come in where individuals are the ones who drive. And once in a while they call upon the critical mass to help push. Right? So eventually, the reality is we will again retreat and go back to everything that we are doing. Everybody who, the 100,000, no, almost 1 million people who are consuming X spaces every day. Almost, we were told, 1 billion people who are consuming all this content every day and talking and agitating. It will be the same as what was happening in the 80s, late 80s and into the 90s, where people were sitting at 6 p.m. to listen to BBC because it was giving them information about this push that we are having for multipartyism. And then they went back to their shambas. And they went back to start having a drink in the evening without necessarily having to talk about, lakini ataenda. Right? So we have to know that we are going to delegate it into something. So what is this thing that we are going to delegate it to?
Excellent question.
In America, they've given us the examples. Yes, the representatives are coming back to the people, but then there's a structure. There's a structure that is mobilizing and organizing. Town hall here, this, there.
Yes.
Not everybody in a town goes to the town hall.
Yes.
But there are people who go to the town hall.
Yeah. In fact, you've answered your question. Because not everyone should be concerned about everything all the time. That's not how life works. But everyone is involved in an area of life that they should hold the leaders in that area accountable. So, for example, you are a farmer, okay? You are getting fake maize, fake fertilizer, fake seeds. That requires not only the farmers' unions, but the farmers themselves to hold their parliamentarians, who are supposed to represent them, accountable, to hold the CS of agriculture accountable, and push towards that direction with the goodwill of the country. You are a doctor, you are an engineer. That agitation needs now to fall into not the general move of the people, but needs to fall into the accountability of the various spheres of professional activity and what affects you. So, for example, let's say you're a person living with a disability. What happens in that space should be a space for you to agitate, to create proper facilities for public participation. Because one of the things that President Ruto keeps asking for, yet it is in the Constitution, is public participation. It's not dialogue. It is public participation. But that public participation has been watered down because you write to the general public and you say, please give your views on bridges being built in Karumaindo.
By 5 p.m. on Tuesday.
Yes. What do I know about bridges? Instead, what should happen is you should create focused groups. Who lives in Karumaindo? Who are the engineers who know about building bridges? What are the transport needs of the people in Karumaindo? So do the transporters need? Put them together properly. The same way they organize conferences for MPs to discuss what they can discuss in Parliament in Naivasha. Do it structurally. How do we do that? This revolution and this president who is listening, as at now, need to meet, not for dialogue. They need to meet at the point where public participation is properly structured with stakeholders, held regularly. In other words, we should know that in every county, we are discussing the budget, national budget in every county, every 1st of April every year, because it's my birthday. Right? We should know that we are discussing healthcare every 10th of March every year, so that the people know if I have an issue with healthcare, 10th of March, ABCD Hall in Kariobangi, I'm going there. We don't need dialogue for now. We need to create a structure where government is forced to listen to people consistently, and that public participation must have a weight in whichever policy and whichever law is being passed. So, for example, this finance bill, right? There was public participation. Whether you want to take it in terms of how people complained on social media or how people came on media and talked about it, people talked about it. Yet a majority of parliamentarians refused to listen. Why? Because that parliamentarian will see you in church when he's giving a harambe, and then he'll see you next at elections to lie to you again. When we create a system where stakeholders are consistently engaged and we make sure that those thoughts are what form policy, then we will have created what I call positive tension between leadership and the people, and it continues to be so.
So essentially what we're saying is that you really want to have folks on tenterhooks.
Yes.
Because the likelihood of you misperforming or misbehaving reduces significantly when you understand that people are watching your every move.
Yes. Why do you think Japan, with its incredible debt, has survived? Because a minister will resign because a train derailed. He wasn't driving the train. He was not maintaining the railway. But he takes such responsibility, and the people expect that he will be responsible even for the train driver who he has never met.
You know, for a moment there, I thought you were going to go to South Korea, I think they are ahead of every country on this planet when it comes to jailing their former presidents.
Yes.
But as you said correctly at the beginning, these are movements we've had before.
Yes.
Movements where people are protesting tax. Movements where people are protesting the learning curriculum before independence and saying, no, this curriculum is substandard. People forming their own independent schools because they're saying, the way these guys are teaching us doesn't really help us. You're right. We have had that history as Kenyans. Now, is it that the vigilance that was required was not applied judiciously, or is it that there is something about our politics and the nature of it that is so corrosive that it is impossible to assume goodwill on the part of anyone who aspires to be a political leader or is a political leader? Or are we saying that our lived experience when it comes to our politics is such that the self-seeking nature of people who aspire to be political leaders, and this can't be true of all, because I know political leaders who actually look after the interests of their people. But are we saying that just so that we are on the safe side and that we are on the side of caution, the vigilance should not stop?
Yes.
Irrespective of the goodwill somebody may garner when they get into office, the vigilance must not stop.
Exactly.
And an accountability mechanism must be set in place where you are told, this is what you said, and this is what you are doing, and this is not what we agreed. Either go back to factory settings or leave the job.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Because if we don't do that, the political class, especially in Kenya, is used to getting away with murder, literally. Okay? We thought the courts would do it. We thought EACC will do it. We thought the Cohesion Commission would do it. No. Those institutions derive power from the people. The people who are listening to me have created not only good tension between ourselves and politicians, but we've given our politicians the golden ticket to go down on record to be the politicians who changed this country. The only way we achieve that is we don't legeza that rope.
So the biggest change that I'm seeing here is not even on the politicians at all, it's on the people.
Yes.
Because the people have got, first of all, to change the idea of who the politician is.
Yes.
That this person is not my leader, this person is my servant. That the person that I've elected into office, I've sent them to go and do a job.
Yes.
I'm the employer. I have given them a clear job description. They are coming back and I'm evaluating their performance.
Yes.
And I shall give them periodic performance reviews. And once I give you the third strike, you're out.
Yep.
And it's clear that way. So that this person does not come and tell you, Pangeni raini hapa ama amutapata basari.
Yes. Exactly.
They know how to come and treat you. They know that they are supposed to come and tell you how your children are going to school.
Yes.
Not to come and tell you how they will take your child to school.
Exactly. And you see,
it's the people.
Yeah. And you see, to the politicians listening to me, what Gen Z has done for you is a historic moment for you to prosper. Because you have carte blanche to do everything right without the punishment that usually comes from the corrupt.
I think, and a number of times now you've said the message is here is to Ruto to seize the moment.
Yes.
To the politicians to seize the moment.
Exactly.
Forget about those guys, Mark.
No, I'm saying
it is for Mark Bichachi, Eric Latiff, CT Muga, Ndu Okoh to seize the moment.
True.
These guys don't have to. Because the moment they do, the moment they seize the moment, they will do it and then they'll find a way of
they'll hold it
calling
captive.
it back. If we do,
they'll never
they
get
have
it back.
no option.
True.
But to toe the line.
To toe the line, to transform. It is for us to actually realize that, you know what, we now understand. We understand the processes. We understand our power. We understand our constitution. And we need to even get to understand it more. We need to test it more. We can actually recall an MP. Let's try it out. Let's see. We need to seize the moment.
And that's what I mean.
They will come.
By the people seizing the moment, any person who has goodwill for this country can only do what should be done. That is to agree with the people.
Essentially, you're saying they should follow the lead of the people, not the other way around.
Yep, exactly.
They should not at it turn and say, "Oh, you guys are not behind me, so let me come ahead." Or let me come and come to the front of the queue. No.
And that's why, for any person in leadership, governor, president, whoever, new vision, new direction, listen to the people. History will judge you favorably. Or else, utasalimiwa.
That's where we are.
So how should we do that?
Agitate. Keep pushing. Create groups. This Gen Z movement, and I don't think it's a Gen Z movement anymore because I've met very old people who wish they could crawl to those mandamano. It's a Kenyan renaissance. Our conscience as a people is coming back online. Our sense, corruption was not an issue in 2022 elections. Today it is an issue. Today Kenyans want corruption to end. Today Kenyans don't want tribalism. It's as if our conscience suddenly came back to life. And since that is the case, what we need to do now is group ourselves into our areas of specialization and decide that we will not only hold leaders accountable, but now we will begin to propose solutions. Not just oppose, because we're good at opposing. But now we need to propose. So, for example, we want cabinet secretaries. Who do you propose? What makes a good communications cabinet secretary, for example.
Champion the people who you'd like to see in that cabinet.
Exactly. So let's stop just opposing. Let's propose.
I love it.
Mark Bichachi, thank you for joining us. And thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room today. So we're seeing a lot of activity across the country. Leo ni Tuesday. Tuesday. Have a lovely one. Have a peaceful day. Let's see you back here tomorrow. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Again, the best health insurance for either the traveling Mark Bichachi or for you and I who don't travel much in this country is Jubilee Health. Jubilee Health, JubileeInsurance.com.
Spice up your